Good morning. It's Saturday morning, July 22nd, 2023. I figured I'd do a little solo for a little while, see what happens. And there's a couple interesting things going on in the world today. A U.S. soldier who crossed into North Korea was facing disciplinary action. Uh, Here's what interests me about this is that you're not supposed to go into North Korea. I think that we all know the situation in the Koreas. North Korea is off limits. It's a closed state. A U.S. soldier is believed to be in custody in North Korea after crossing the border without authorization, according to officials from the Pentagon and the United Nations body that oversees the DMZ between and South Korea. The Pentagon identified the soldier as Private Second Class Travis King. Never trust a dude named Travis. I don't know what it is. People named Travis, there's always something about them. Who has been in the Army since January 2021, Army spokesman Bryce Doobie told NPR that King was on a Korean force rotation. The Associated Press and other news organizations citing U.S. officials have reported that King was detained on assault charges in a South Korean prison and was in the process of being sent back to the United States. If he ran off to North Korea, like if he ran into North Korea to get away from South Korean slash, I guess, U.S. military police, that would tell me that he did it, whatever it is that he is being accused of. Of course, you need proof, but yeah, he probably did it. Officials told the AP that King was on his way to the airport and was supposed to be flown to Fort Bliss in Texas, but he managed to duck his escort and joined a tour of the South Korean village of Panmunjom. We believe he is currently in DPRK custody and are working with our KPA counterparts to resolve this incident. It's a pretty big deal for a U.S. soldier to run off into North Korea. The UN command wrote on Twitter Tuesday, referring to North Korea by its formal name, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and the country's army. Oh, okay, that's kind of a weird sentence. The man is a U.S. service member who was touring the Joint Security Area, a border village between the two Koreas, when he willingly crossed the area's military demarcation line, said Colonel Isaac Taylor, the head of public affairs for the United States Forces Korea. A Pentagon official who spoke to NPR on the condition of anonymity added that the soldier was facing disciplinary action and was dressed in civilian clothes at the time of the incident. As of midday Tuesday, authorities were not ready to release the man's identity, given that they had not yet notified his next of kin, the official said. A woman who said she was part of the tour group described the man being at the last stop when she heard a loud ha 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 and saw the man who'd been with the group all day run between two of the buildings and over to the other side. It took everybody a second to react and grasp what had actually happened, she wrote in a Facebook post that's since been deleted. Then we were ordered into and through Freedom House and running back to our military bus. I see iMega Arts in chat. Good morning, iMega. um, I wonder if this guy even understands what he did, because it's the definition of an international incident. Personally, if I were whatever U.S. ambassador, envoy, whoever the U.S. is going to have handle this, I'd talk to the guy in North Korea, whoever it was they have handling it. I'd be like, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. Keep him for a year. We'll talk about this in 1 year exactly. Just keep him for a year. He has a few things he's got to learn. Maybe we'll let you hang on to him for good. But let's bring this up again in a year. Don't kill him. Don't let him die in your prison like Warm Beer did. But hang on to this guy for a year. He has a few things he's got to learn. And I have the feeling that a North Korean prison will teach him quite a few things that he needs to learn. The woman did not respond to NPR's request for comment. In a statement shared with NPR, the State Department said, and by the way, that was kind of where I stood on Otto Warmbier. He broke their law. He faces their prison. Now, they shouldn't have killed him in prison, which by neglect, accident, or intention they did. But uh, Otto Warmbier absolutely needed to have the North Korean prison experience. Where was I? In a statement shared with NPR, the State Department said it was in touch with the Pentagon to provide assistance. In a media briefing, spokesman Matthew Miller added that the State Department had not been in touch with North Korea or any other governments regarding the matter. Just leave them there for a year. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said he expected to have more information on the man in the coming hours and days. I'm absolutely foremost concerned about the welfare of our troop, he told reporters during a Tuesday briefing, offering little other information than what has already been confirmed. The soldier's detention Tuesday poses a fresh diplomatic challenge for Washington's wary relationship with North Korea, and it comes at a particularly tense time. They're probably going to turn it into a racial incident since he's black. They might just pretend it didn't happen, though. The regime under leader Kim Jong un has been testing increasingly powerful intercontinental ballistic missiles in recent months. He could be a spy. He could. It would be a really bad strategy, but the military is run by morons right now. So is our government. Last week's test of an ICBM flew for longer time than any of its previous missiles. In theory, such a weapon would be capable of hitting the U.S. And PR's Anthony Kuhn reported. Most likely not. Maybe Hawaii. I doubt it. Also last week, the U.S. sent a nuclear-armed submarine to the shallow waters off the Korean peninsula, a move designed to reassure South Korea, a U.S. ally, Kuhn told All Things Considered. The U.S. has engaged in several rounds of negotiations with North Korea since the 90s, seeking to end the country's nuclear development in exchange for eased sanctions. The most recent talks ended in 2019 with former President Donald Trump saying he didn't want to agree to a bad deal. Generally a good idea to not agree to a bad deal. North and South Korea stopped fighting in 1953 with an armistice agreement, but are still technically at war. The DMZ divides the two Koreas approximately around the 38th parallel and serves as the de facto international border. It is heavily fortified and mined on both sides. Reminds me of Aeon Flux. If you've never heard of Aeon Flux, I'm pretty sure Peter Chung, was Korean, and Aeon Flux has the two nations of, what is it? Something, Monica and Bresnia, and they're perpetually at war. Aeon Flux is an agent of Monica. She infiltrates Bresnia, if I remember correctly. I think it's Bresnia. With their charismatic leader, Trevor Goodchild. Peter Chung must have recast his impressions of North and South Korea into a more Eurocentric aesthetic. Which I think Aeon Flux is pretty cool. The U.S. statement warns U.S. citizens. The U.S. State Department warns U.S. citizens against traveling to North Korea due to, quote, the continuing serious risk of arrest and long-term detention of U.S. nationals, including the, quote, critical threat of wrongful detention. That travel warning was implemented in 2015 after U.S. college student Otto Warmbier was detained by North Korean authorities while touring the area. He was released to the U.S. in a coma in 2017 and died 2 days later. I mean, you Americans shouldn't be going to North Korea in the first place. It's kind of stupid. There's nothing to be had there. I thought I'd read that article as a little bit of a warm up. Like I said, I don't intend to do a long show today. Kind of thinking about the structure and back end for the Saturday morning show. I think I'm going to do it earlier than this. I just got up a little late today. Had a couple of things to do. I wanted to play. This thing is something I saw. I've seen it on multiple streams and all over the place, and it confused me a lot. I didn't understand what it was, although I had suspicions of what it is, and found out that all of my suspicions are true. It is what I think it is. Kind of weird.
Yes.
Oh, marshmallow. Crunchy corn. Yum. Kitty paws.
So this chick does this weird bopping dance thing, and she has uh, a number of, I don't know, pre-rehearsed, predetermined like phrases and expressions that she does. And when people tip or super chat or whatever these, I don't understand exactly how TikTok Live works because I don't use it and I avoid it at all times. Uh, I guess except for this time, she responds with the pre-rehearsed like reactions when she sees the stickers, I think is how it works. And a lot of them revolve around eating food.
Pumpkin. Yum.
Controversial take. This is secretly what's really in women's brains. This is all they really want to be doing is simple, pre-rehearsed responses to standardized interactions. Simple, no thinking necessary, immediate rewards.
For me, for me, for me, for me, for me. Taco, for me, for me.
It reminds me a lot of the movie Gamer. Who is that in Gamer? I can't remember who's in Gamer. Hang on, let's take a look. Movie Gamer. Clive Owen. Is it Clive Owen? I think it's Clive Owen. No, Gerard Butler. Easy to mistake him for Clive Owen. Uh, the plot of Gamer, if you remember, is that people can contract themselves to be infused with brain controlling nanites, and then wealthier people can pay to control those nanites so the people become avatars like in a video game, only it's real, and all the avatar people are in a city. And the movie is around this guy played by Gerard Butler named Cable, who is like a COD character. So this kid is his operator. He runs him through death matches, armed death matches. But then there's another part of the city where Butler's wife is, and his whole motivation for being in this game is to try and free his wife. And his wife is essentially an avatar, like hooker. So people pay to control her when she bangs other people. And the visual aesthetic is very similar. I tried to find a clip to show you, but I couldn't find one. Oh well, too bad. The NPC streaming thing is weird. I don't know what else to say about it. It burns my brain, man. Okay, let's see. I like if you haven't, man, I need more coffee. If you haven't been watching Patrick Ben David, you should. I can't. He's changed the format of his podcast recently. I think he had one set with lockers, and I don't know if he got rid of that. I like that set. I don't like it when people change their sets. I think they do it too often, and it costs a lot of money to do it. I don't know. And it always seems like when people change their set, they change it to the same aesthetic that every other set has. So the locker set I thought was different because it had more of Patrick Ben David's personality on it. Whereas this is like a generic talk show host set. And it's weird having the desk on the left of the screen instead of the right of the screen. That might be a little bit nitpicky. But also just the whole way they've got it set up is weird. Also, I don't know why they didn't just, well, let me throw it up. And then I'll tell you this is just me being technically nitpicky. Here we go. I don't know how the fuck Patrick Ben-David got Anthony Weiner to agree to be on his podcast, but he also got Tubin on too. Guy's impressive, man. I don't know how he does it. If you look here, you see that there's a mic on a boom stand. I think that's what they have for everyone. I don't know why they don't just have lavs. There's no reason Patrick Ben-David can absolutely afford to have wireless lavs and a mic technician on his set. But they have, I mean, he's already got a sound. There's no way he doesn't have a technical team. So my suggestion, excuse me, my suggestion is Patrick Ben-David get lavs. But other than that, his podcast is awesome. Every bit of it that I've watched, I've liked. I'm gonna watch more of it. Probably gonna watch some of it today. And you probably should as well.
He's reading a list of names.
So
He hasn't even asked a question. It's a list.
the fact that you're getting nervous is an answer.
It's not
okay?
nervous. This stuff
let
makes
me
me
wrap
sick
it-
when you repeat
Exactly. It
these
makes us sick as
ridiculous-
well.
I love how Patrick Ben-David went right at him. What happened was he was telling Anthony Weiner that when he has a guest on, he asks the audience what questions did they want to ask the guest, and there were all these questions that he thought were not credible. You know, like adrenochrome, frazzle drip, whatever Clinton conspiracy stuff. But then when he got to the kill list, when he got to Clinton death count, he thought, well, there's some credibility here. And the truth is, Patrick Ben-David is very smart. He intentionally picked some of the more quote unquote fringe ideas that he might see some credibility in, but he picked those to say, no, I see no credibility in this, so that he could then get to one and say, but that is still pretty out there in a manner of speaking. So he could then say, but this one's good. And it's actually a pretty serious one, is the body count around the Clintons. And Weiner immediately flips out. Weiner isn't, fucking name. Weiner isn't used to people confronting him directly and not backing down. He's used to having power. He's used to having power over other people. He knows what Clinton's done. He knows enough of what Clinton's done to be guilty of complicity in some way. And PBD just goes right at him.
It also
It
makes us
obviously
sick.
doesn't. It
Of course,
obviously
because
doesn't.
the establishment
You
makes us
start
sick.
the question by reading a list of
Your reaction
well-founded
is an answer.
conspiracy. I know these things make me sick, and people
Your
have gotten
reaction
killed.
is an
over it.
answer.
Someone went.
Your reaction is an answer. And then I have a white pill. I'm going to share the white pill at the end of the stream. I thought, I forgot I had something. Okay, this will it play? It should play. I have been somehow following the Comicsgate thing since it started. I really like Zach's stuff and blah, blah, blah. It didn't take long for Comicsgate to become what it was started to stand against. If you remember early Zach videos, we're talking about the problem with work girlfriends in places like Marvel and DC. And then people in Comicsgate started getting their work girlfriends. And when those work girlfriends did subpar work, those people in Comicsgate still simped for their work girlfriends. And that was a big divider. Here, let's see if I can do this.
Be honest and genuine, have fun, and be yourself and have a personality. Would you have all of those things? So just keep doing it, Alex, and
Well, if I have,
you're
she's so
huge.
sweet. She is so sweet.
Shit, if I had to, if all those things are true, why do I have to eat sushi off a trans person in order to make people laugh?
Because you're a crazy person and you
Yeah.
do crazy bits.
Okay, then that's good. That makes me feel better. Well, how do I do it?
How do I do it?
Be honest and
How do I
genuine,
do
have
it?
fun,
Be
and
honest.
Be yourself and have a
Be
personality.
genuine.
Would you have
Be
all of
honest.
those things? So just
Be
keep doing it,
genuine.
Alex, and
Well,
you'll.
Be honest.
She's so
Huge.
sweet.
Be
She is so sweet.
genuine.
Shit, if I had to,
Be
if all those things
honest.
are true, why do I have to eat
Be
sushi off
genuine.
a trans person in order to
Be
make people laugh?
honest.
Because you're a crazy
genuine.
person and you
Yeah.
do crazy bits.
Be honest.
Okay, then that's
Be
good. That makes me
genuine.
feel better. Well, how do I do it?
Be
What I'm saying, Comic Skate, is stop letting your fucking thirst ruin everything. Stop letting your fucking thirst ruin everything. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to find cool shit and then see it ruined by the same thing that ruined the last cool shit. Be honest. Be genuine. Be honest. Be genuine. I don't know. People just like me. Fucking boring. I thought it would be fun to stream snipe some of Hard Bastard's stream snipe of Rekieta Law's interview with Sitch and Adam about the Fuentes ordeal. Some relevant stuff to add to that, maybe. Okay, I gotta do that with the entire screen. Okay. And we'll share the system audio too.
And again, I always love engaging people who have reasonable approaches to a conversation. I don't care how much we agree or disagree. So thank you for watching us, and we'll see you on Rumble. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions.
Dude, get away! For offensive language.
To be a slur guy. But do you know what I sense here from Sitch and Adam? Fear. Fear. You see, that's different, okay? Like, I think they're afraid. They're a little...
I want to see why he's saying that. Let's find out why he's saying that.
And the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Oh shit, I forgot to turn it off of YouTube. Get away. Go away. Go away, you Brit. There we go.
Just about to drop an N-bomb too, so.
Well, we're now on Rumble, so you can say whatever offensive language you want. Would you like to say, do you guys have any slurs you want to get off your chest?
No, I'm not.
Hey, you guys don't use slurs?
No.
Do you hear? I'm not a slur guy. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't...
Okay, I see what he said. Yeah, like the thing with speech is that if you don't use it, you lose it. So you should use it, even if just to let people know that you have no intention of losing it. But Sitch and Adam are more interested in being good boys. And I'm not sure which one of them I hate more. I definitely fucking hate these guys. They're both manipulative. They're both manipulative, and they're both playing a character. Sitch is playing like, I'm smart and even-keeled. He's not that intelligent. And Adam Friended has the disposition of a fucking adjunct English teacher who gives old men hand jobs on the weekends for meth money. There's something about Adam. Like, he's so smarmy. I fucking can't stand him.
care if you're a slur guy or not. You don't have to be a slur guy. But do you know what I sense here from Sitch and Adam? Fear.
Yep.
Fear.
They're afraid that they're going to be associated with someone that says the bad words.
Okay? Like, I think they're afraid. They're a little bit... this is a little awkward here.
They're afraid that they're going to be associated with someone that says the bad words, and they're going to lose access to things like interviews with Anna Kasparian. They're afraid. They are afraid. That's what makes them manipulative. They're constantly thinking about how they have to contrive themselves to get things that they want. Those are terrible fucking people.
Isn't this a little awkward? They're kind of like, I think they're afraid. That's where, look, if you're not a slur guy, no problem. But if you're afraid of slurs, come on. What are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. They're fucking words.
No,
okay? It's
what
really...
they're afraid of. What they're afraid of is being associated with someone that says the bad words, because that's enough to get you kicked out of the in-group. You're going to see that a lot. I had this retail job one time, and I was in. They had like a kitchen area, a very small kitchen area. I like nicked my hand or something like that, and so I walked out and I was like looking for the first aid kit to clean it up, and the floor manager at the time was one of those like Oakley Shades Power Metal Monster beverage douches. I was like, oh, what happened? I'm like, I fucking nicked my hand. There were customers nearby, but not nearby enough to actually hear or even care. And the thing is, well, I'll explain. And I could see him hesitate for a second, and I could see his eyes sweep the area and see if there were customers around, and he just goes off on me. What would you say around the customers? And it's like, dude, if you would just shut your fucking mouth, no one would have noticed. But he was afraid that he would be seen not responding to the bad words the way that the power structure expected him to respond to the bad words. It's 90% of why people are against the bad words is actually they're against other people associating them with the bad words and not having the proper response. Proper.
A little ridiculous. Anyway, here we go.
No.
Like even
not
for
really.
fun?
No.
What about like anti-white slurs? You know any good ones?
I mean, I know them.
You do?
Sure.
We all know the slurs. Like,
For
okay.
anti-white
Adam's so full of shit.
I mean, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
some of them. Well, what do you got? It's safe. You're on
I
Rumble.
mean, you just
I
go on
won't
Twitter and you go to certain spheres.
I like Mayo Monkey. I like Chalk Demon. I like Chalk Demon a lot. I want to name a band Chalk Demon. There's like two more that I really like.
You like the whole.
I forget what they are, though.
White slur.
Mayo
I'm always
Monkey's
trying to
pretty
find
good.
good ones because every time I encounter white people like in the wild, I want to use slurs on them,
Listen,
especially
I'm
when they're
against-
dancing.
I'm anti-racism. I'm anti-white. I'm against anti-white racism. So
Again, it's not racist. First of all, I don't even accept the concept of racism anymore.
I mean, what he's saying is, I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy.
Because it's a cudgel used against white people. It's not.
Oh, the topic of the stream that Ricade is doing right now is Nick Fuentes' banning from Rumble. So Rumble failed. That's all there is to it. Rumble failed their free speech test. They were given a free speech test and they failed it. So they are not a free speech platform. I don't care how you rationalize it. I don't care how you explain it away. They declared themselves as a free speech platform. They failed the test of being a free speech platform. They are not a free speech platform. They are what speech the powerful allow us to have platform, which is every other platform on the internet so far. Maybe not every. They're going to go after Fresh and Fit soon. I guarantee you something's going to happen with Fresh and Fit. Maybe it already has. They've been uploading like old episodes lately, so they may already be jammed up.
Not used against other people. It's total bullshit. Okay. But what Nick is talking about, we're talking about this is fun. It's jokes. It's good-natured. Now, if you're
These
offended,
guys
that's
can't.
fine.
They're
But
incapable
your
of having
offense
fun.
doesn't get to dictate what everyone else is doing. Your offense is for you. And so if you want to be offended, no problem. You can be offended and you can do, oh, I'm offended. I don't like this. And you have some options. You can turn it off. You can voice your objections. But you have no right to control what other people do and tell them, oh, well, I mean, you can tell them they're a bad person, but that's fucking gay. Like, stop.
The reason they want to control what other people do is because they're afraid that they'll be associated with the bad people. It's kind of like when, and this, I'll probably come back to this idea. It's kind of like when the teacher leaves all the students alone in the room and a couple of students start goofing off. And then the teacher comes back and there's the one or two students that have to rat out the students that were goofing off because they're afraid that they will get punished collectively along with the students that were goofing off. When if they had just kept their mouths shut, nothing would have happened.
Stop being gay. We just need less homosexuality overall in the world. I want to reduce, like we're at like a level 9 homosexuality in the world. You could argue we're at a 10. I would like.
What's going on, DogTube Reviews? Nice dog. I love dogs. Dogs are great. I love animals in general.
To reduce it down to like a 4 or a 3. I mean, you could talk me into reducing it down to a 0, but I'm 3. How about a 3? Can we go down to a 3? Anyway, no chance.
I don't want to perpetuate these stereotypes. Yes.
You're Nick. You look white. I mean,
No, he said he was
are-
black.
Yeah, I'm black. What do you
Oh, you identify.
No,
One
I
of
am
those.
black.
All right,
hilarious.
Scott Adams.
Dude, look, look, the sun bleaches my skin a little bit. I get a little lighter in the summer. It's true, but no, I'm black man, of course.
You look a little red, but
No, I've never been native.
I'm
So
pretty
what's the-
red.
What's the deal with Rumble? Like, you have like an exclusive deal with them or something?
Nice dodge, Mayo Monkey.
What do you
That's a
mean?
good one.
Oh.
You want to keep talking about this
I
cream
don't-
cricket? Yeah, no, I signed.
I like
signed
cream
on
cricket.
A contract with Rumble.
Not as much as I like Male
So
Monkey or Chop
I-
Demon, though.
When I hadn't watched Nick for a while. You lose track, and like he streams at the same time I do, and so I was desperately searching for someone to cover this that was getting it right. So when I first heard this, I was like, oh, here we go. I'm like, there's going to be some sort of.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Rekieta. I like Rekieta a lot, but I don't know that I can watch him live as much anymore because he takes an hour to get to the first topic. He says that he's known as Mr. Long Way Around. He's found longer ways to take around these days. Easier to watch on the replay when I can fast forward to him getting to the fucking point.
This is going to be like Quartering or the other guys who are like, oh no, this is just a one-off and it's actually incitement to violence. But to my absolute, I don't know, delight, that's kind of gay, but he nails it. And so good. Look, I don't care if you take deals. Take whatever deal you want. I'm just saying that usually, on average, people allow those deals to cloud their commentary. But there are instances where a person doesn't, and here you go. So good for Nick on this one.
January.
What's crazy to me about when people allow money interests to change their positions on things or affect their positions on things is the act that it's not obvious. Like it's obvious what you're doing, man. Just be honest about it.
Well, it started in January of this year.
Okay.
So yeah, I do the first. Usually it's about an hour, but roughly the first half of the show on YouTube.
I'm gonna
And then
fast forward a little.
Even if you want, because again, they're a private company, they can do what they want. Explaining to people what the rationale behind the ban is. Don't have people, I think they had Elijah Schaefer. Someone was talking to Elijah Schaefer behind the scenes and giving him information. You come out, okay? You fucking release a goddamn press release. Don't.
Yeah, this is true. Rumble should have some balls and say what they really did and why. But the thing is that they know that if they're honest about why they did it, and it's not because of incitement to violence, that's fucking nonsense. There was no incitement to violence. It passes the Brandenburg test. It might be approval of violence, but let me give you an example of why that's not a problem. I approve of the storming of Normandy. That was quite a violent act. That's not an incitement. It's not an incitement. But retards don't know how to use words.
Don't just be behind the scenes talking about people. Take the shit on. Take this head on.
I don't personally think that Rumble has navigated this situation particularly well. And
I
we'll get into
agree.
why. But yeah, so but yes, I'm happily contracted with Rumble.
I wouldn't be surprised if Nick's relationship with Rumble
way higher than on YouTube.
experiences
Yeah,
obstacles,
You got a lot. You got
maybe small ones, but they're not going to like that he
I think
disagreed
it's
with
about
them.
even. I think it's still a little more on YouTube, and I still think the impression I get is there are still issues with the mobile app for people to use the chat. So I hope they fix that as soon.
I'll be running 8,000 to 12,000 people on Rumble. So
wow,
it's
well,
it's
good. For
yeah,
large.
Foxconn building.
Like a
All right,
reference.
let's get to
from,
the point.
You know,
Yeah, it's a little old.
Oh wait, so everybody stop trying to kill themselves in China
The
now.
suicide.
yeah.
net.
Listen, now they do it the easy way. Okay, they just give them a little bit of poison in the coffee.
No, I think this is Adam and Sitch simping
But
for China.
let's talk about Nazis and white nationalism and things like that's what the people want to talk about, right?
Well,
Yeah,
They don't care about
can
Asian
you-
people killing themselves, Nick.
Can you summarize the video? Like, I think you're the only one that's actually watched the videos.
Yeah, so
I
you
saw.
watched-
Summarize
whole
the
thing.
video.
It's like an
Can
hour
you
and a
summarize-
half, right?
I saw like half a clip.
It's like an hour and 45 minutes ish, I guess.
See, I don't get this, and like I said, do whatever you want. But like, if you're going on a show to talk about a subject, shouldn't you
Yeah.
at least be familiar with the source material?
That's going to be. I mean, that's Adam. He just picks up the zeitgeist of the people he wants to belong to, and he restates it with smarm. Fucking douche. Doesn't have any idea what the fuck he's talking about.
I heard the audio is really bad for a big portion of it too. Like that they had audio issues at first. Is that true?
The audio on that was
Well, I
really
know
bad.
The,
The
version I saw,
audio on Fuentes' video was really bad. Those guys need to learn how to get a fucking board feed. You go to the console, you take an XLR, you ask for an aux out or whatever they have on the console, or there are mixes out, there are auxes out, there are group outs, and you get a dupe of the board feed into your fucking press box or whatever gear you have there. It's very easy. You can probably fucking Google it. You Google whatever console they have, board feed, aux out. You go directly in. You don't pick it up from the room. You pick it up from a discrete, clean feed that doesn't have the room in it. One of the simplest fucking things to do.
that was on Cozy. Someone said it was edited around that, so the audio was
Yeah.
fine in the part that I saw.
Someone sent that to me, and here's my dilemma. So
You're not really
this
gonna be able to
discussion
clean that
really
audio
kicked
up,
off
quote,
on
unquote.
Twitter for me, with Vito doing a thing that he does that I don't
Oh,
like.
I know. Yeah.
This was
So
yesterday, and he's like,
Vito thing.
it's like,
Bitch shit.
Vito, what did
"Hey,
you
Bitch
do?
behavior.
Yeah.
You have a white
Yeah.
nationalist.
Vito is a prototypical hall monitor bitch.
What? I didn't call for deplatforming. It's like, then what was the thing you were like?
If I ran a social media company, people like that would get banned. I wouldn't ban them permanently, but I'd give Vito 30 days. I'd say, listen, you try to get other people deplatformed, you get 30 days. And if you do it again, you get 60. And then if you do it again, you're fucking permanently banned. No bitch behavior, no flagging, no faggotry, okay? Don't try to...
Vito's never going to be not like that. He's always going to be like that. He's going to find the group he wants to appeal to, and then he's going to try to distinguish himself to that group by being a snitch for the group that is diametrically opposed to them. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I fucking hate Vito so much. He's like the epitome of so many things I hate.
fuck with people like that. You can fuck with people any other way that you want as long as it's legal. Do not try to get people censored on the internet. That's fucking bullshit, and I would absolutely ban someone for that for 30 days. But whatever.
What is the point of tagging Rumble? It's not just like he went out and said, Nick Fuentes is a scumbag, he's calling for violence.
You know what the
They're
point
gonna
of
import
tagging
people,
Rumble was.
Like, know about this.
The
It's
point
like,
of tagging
Rumble,
Rumble
are
was
you
to
gonna
bring
take
heat
care of
on
this
Rumble so that they would
Nazi
bring heat on
problem in
Nick.
America by yourself?
Top-down pressure.
Yeah.
That is
There's-
how it
there's a-
kicked off. And
Yes.
he did the
Downward
same
pressure,
shit
downward
with,
leverage. There's a
with
term for it. I forget what it
Nerdrotic.
is.
Jones, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
you
got
know,
a, he's a tattletale, man.
I know, it's so fucking
What a bitch.
irritating.
Wait, what did he do in Neurotic?
They had Alex Jones on
Oh,
Nerdrotic show. What is it?
Yeah, Friday Night Tights, yeah.
which is a huge show. I think they had, over 10,000 people watching live, and Vito's adding YouTube about it.
That's mean.
Vito knows what
Yeah,
he's
what a-
doing, and he likes to play, oh, shucks, gee, man, I'm just being a journalist, but he knows what he's doing. He's a low IQ, like 90 IQ sociopath. And part of the Dick Masterson talked about how Vito is full of nervous energy. He's one of those dudes who's always like, what's the word? Like tapping his foot, like stomping his foot, like he's sitting in a chair and you got that foot going. You know those guys. It's part of the reason why he's so fat. He eats. That's an anxiety response, and so is his eating. He's a gluttonous pig because he's tortured inside over the fact that he's a little bitch. He can't understand why people don't like him because he keeps betraying people to get them to like him, and he can't understand that that's what makes people dislike him.
Yeah.
Be chill. What the hell?
And then he's like, I didn't tell him to censor them. It's like, why are you tagging them? Like, I get that if you want to say that something, he said, well, it's newsworthy that you're talking about eradicating Jews or whatever. Like, that's a fine point to make.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point in asking Vito why. Asking Vito why he did it. Maybe you ask him once, maybe. But asking Vito why he did it just gives him an opportunity to lie about why he did it. You know why he did it. He knows why he did it. You just confront him straight out. I know why you did this.
Looks, because you got two options here. You're either trying to make the person look bad, or you're trying to make the platform look bad. Like, that's, to me, that's what it is. Like, you're yeah, I think it's both too. But so I should say either or both. But yeah, I mean that seems to be the point. But I don't care about Nick Fuentes in America First. I'm way too old to be in America First. I hear you have to be like under 22. I'm joking about that. It's just because every picture I see of them, I'm like, these are kids, man. Like these guys are so young. And I remember being in my 20s. I remember being like extremely.
I think. So here's the thing about America First. There are a lot of positions they have that I agree with, and there are a lot of positions that I'm like, boy, I hope that we're not at that point yet. But the thing that I've seen with, and their behind the scenes stuff is a mess. All the weird shit with UV lights, and Nick's good on camera, but I think that he does have interpersonal socialization difficulties. Probably has a lot to do with getting involved in having his entire, maybe not his entire life, too much of his life on the internet at such a young age. I couldn't imagine what that would be like. But the thing that I've seen is very few people actually argue about the points that he's making. Destiny didn't argue against any of the points that he's making. He just distracted and gish galloped through the whole thing and threw his arms up in the air. If you disagree with Nick, you should argue the points that he's making. But people don't do that, and it makes me wonder, well, is that because they can't?
Motivated to like demonstrate and do stuff politically and really like go out and talk about it all the time aggressively. But as I've gotten older, I'm not as aggressive. I'm mostly like, if I'm interested in stuff, I'll talk about it. But I don't feel the need to try and like convince everybody of a thing all the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm not like, I don't care about America First. I find Fuentes to be really weird in general. And I don't really like find him that compelling. I know other people do, but he's not to me. So I don't follow any of this. And then I see Vito bitching about it. And of course, calling out Rumble. And I'm like, can we just not do this? Like, can we not try to force them into a censorship position? Because I know how it goes. They censor, people get mad. They're like, you were supposed to be free speech. So now I'm going to go back to YouTube, which is even less free speech. But because you guys failed in your statement, now you're worse. It's like, I hate it. I hate that whole fucking process. But then I watched the video and like, well, there are questions here if they should even be considering censorship. And my contention is no, not in this case. And I know
Does-
people disagree with that.
Right. Does Rumble? I know. I think Quartering said that they did it on. They got rid of it on account of violence, right? Advocation of violence.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
do they not have a general like they don't allow hate speech policy?
No, I think that's part of why they moved to the U.S. because Canada, where they were originally based, required specific hate speech.
So what they're doing is they're conflating incitement to violence with advocacy for violence. They're not the same thing. They're completely different things. And that is being done conveniently.
Versus trans people, LGBTQ, hate speech is banned under law in Canada, so they couldn't have that policy and stay there. They could not have a policy that ignored hate speech.
I've said this before. I don't care. You could make your terms of service gay. I would rather you not do that. But you could have all the bullshit in the terms of service and then just not enforce it. I'll take that. I'll take that. I mean, again, I prefer if you're asking me what's optimal, decentralized with no one in control is what's optimal. But I've said this before. I don't care what the hell is
free speech is free speech. You either have it or you don't.
One of the terms of services of Rumble, and it was saying you can't even do profanity. Okay, so they don't enforce that at all. If they enforce that, I'm fucking. Oh, I mean, I'm probably fucked anyway. My whole archive is on Rumble. Now it's also on other sites, so bookmark multiples. I'm gonna keep.
When they put up terms that they don't enforce, the whole idea is to selectively enforce them at a later date, which is why that shouldn't be a thing. Because they always do.
But up for now, and if it gets taken down, it gets taken down. What are you going to do? But if they enforce the profanity shit, and that's gay as hell. But I do understand that you have to deal with the app stores and that bullshit, and that's not the easiest thing to navigate. You got to figure it out though, and you got to be upfront, and even if you were like, hey, look, we overshot our skis, and because be decentralized, or I think Rumble has said they have their own servers. Just say, until we're completely 100% independent, we have to cuck on some of this stuff. It's not optimal, but we're trying, be upfront about it.
But the until never happens. Once you cuck, you can't uncuck yourself. You can't uncuck yourself. Once you cuck, you're cucked forever. So the whole until we're independent thing, that never happens. They never roll back restrictions and say, oh, we had to be a bit extra censorious before, but now we're letting that back. That doesn't happen. We thought that was happening with Twitter, but now that there's this cunt from the WEF running it, it's right back to where it once was.
You just need to be. They haven't really said anything so far, as I'm aware about this. They've just fed, information to a couple of independent journalists.
But my understanding is that their policy now is only for calls to violence, right? Threats of violence. Which means different things to different people.
Of course.
Right.
But that's
why you have to go by the legal standard. That's why you have to go by the legal standard.
Understanding. Because I've said a bunch of.
But people can't tell the difference between the moral standard and the legal standard. They don't differentiate between the two.
Crazy shit on Rumble. It's almost always in the context of a joke, and it's pretty obvious. But I have said crazy shit because I think it's funny to be able to do that from time to time. And it's nice to kind of shock the audience who's watching with something you don't get to hear somewhere else. But you don't I don't mean much of anything. I like everybody. So
sure. But I mean, obviously there's and I guess this is what we'll talk about.
The Brandenburg test here. Brandenburg restricted that across law and more with technical white community be real about what's going on here.
Violence and so we can get into the specific statement. Therefore, a summary of the overall thing, because sometimes when I'm looking,
like I said, Nick has that habit of just going on and on and on.
For the grapers and also kind of just a little bit of touching of current event issues. So in the beginning, a lot of it's we need to get rid of Jewish power in America. Whites are being eliminated and genocided. And then he kind of goes into complaining about Andrew Tate and how they're not godly.
So let's do a test here. The mafia is a problem. The mafia is an Italian crime organization that selects for membership according to Italian ethnic purity. Italians are in the mafia. The mafia are Italians. The mafia is a problem. The Italians and their mafia are a problem. Do you see what's going on? No one has a problem with this. We know that. We know this. Even the thing with the mafia was that, like, even the people that weren't in the mafia wanted to be in the mafia because the mafia were Italian folk heroes. Back in Italy, they were folk heroes. They were also sort of kind of criminals, but Italian politics have always been what we would consider corrupt. So the corruption that the mafia would be involved in wouldn't stand out. In a lot of ways, their structuring probably harkened back to like the actual Roman Empire in a lot of ways. So the Italian people were very used to the idea of what the mafia did. And the folk legend that I heard, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, because the mafia started out as country bumpkins offering protection to farmers, lemon farmers, and they just kind of branched out. Other people did it. It escalated and complicated over multiple generations. But they got the name the mafia because some lady's daughter got, like, I don't know if she got murdered, but she got like kidnapped and raped or something like that. And she went into the town square saying like, "Oh, I don't remember. I think her daughter name was Sophia, so she was like Mafia or something like that." And the mafia went and they took care of the guys that at least raped and assaulted. I don't remember if they murdered her, but the mafia went. What became the mafia went and they took care of the people that did that. So the mafia are Italian folk heroes. In the New World, in the States, when they got over here, they carried with other Italians that folk hero mantle. So at the same time that they were preying on Italians knew that it wasn't the cops they were going to go to get help. It wasn't the government they were going to go to get help. It was going to be the mafia they went to get help. There's no controversy in talking about that. But there's this one group we can't talk about that with, as if they don't have any similar dynamic within their culture. No one has a problem with talking about the IRA.
A lot of it focuses on being, his kind of Christian nationalism, his vision for Christian nationalism.
Okay.
And then it kind of goes back to the Jews again. And then it kind of ends with like, in 10 years, we're going to have, 10,000 Groypers and, all the halls of power, blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a summary. I don't know. I didn't watch.
It's not like a stand-up routine. It's
right.
It's like a mission.
What are
of course
the
not.
chances?
Yep.
It's a
What are the chances
political
of
rally.
any of this
Yeah.
appearing in a Biden attack ad against Trump?
Probably not. Well, I don't know. He was praising Trump, so they could take a clip.
Well, he
He also did a meeting with Trump.
Wait. He also.
yeah,
It's
him
funny.
and Kanye.
And it's funny. Maybe Nick did this on purpose. I didn't think about this. He said this at him. Not only he praised Trump.
And this is something that actually Nick brings up a little bit later, I think. But if you take Nick's speech and you swap some words and put a Star of David behind him and make him a Zionist advocate, there's no banning.
Trump and also praised Biden in the speech, maybe for that reason.
Oh, wow.
He
Yeah.
was praising Biden for being the only president to not kiss the Wailing Wall. So maybe that was why he said that.
Wow.
To be fair, it's only because the Wailing Wall is older than 7.
Didn't
Oof.
got him. That's pretty
That was
good.
that was a good one, Nick.
Pretty good.
That was,
That's kind of the things I have in mind when I talk about them.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and by the way, I'm always down for in discussions defining terms because I think that's good.
While they have been in the past good on some things like CRT and Rittenhouse, They do enforce media narratives, and one of the media narratives is the trusting of the government or giving the government the benefit.
I have no doubt that Adam and Sitch get a paycheck from someone probably related to Soros, Schwab, or David Brock. I have no doubt about it. There's no other way that they had the access to get Anna Kasparian on.
Of the doubt. That's why I don't find them to be the most organic channel. And I wonder, now it could be a Pacman situation, you know, because I think Pacman is technically independent, or it could be a situation like with BreadTube when they were paid by the cutouts from the, you know, what the equivalent of the American CIA is in the UK. I don't know, but there is this kind of.
All you have to do to control these people is to give them big donations when they say things you like, and they'll keep saying the things you like for those big donations. That's it. It doesn't have to be a paycheck from like a PAC or a think tank or any sort of organization. You just give them a big super chat. Give them what's the average super chat? $20. You give them a 50, 100, a 500 when they're really good boys.
Kind of trusting the government kind of underlying narrative with them, which is fascinating. Especially, was it them or was it Destiny? Destiny is another one. It's the same thing though. Good on a couple things, but then on a lot of the stuff, it's the government didn't do anything wrong. Of course, they had to do.
While proceeded to shoot 3 officers, killing 1, critically injuring 2. Luckily, a 4th officer was able to cull the rat bastard, multiple long guns and hand grenades.
Oh, I don't know. This is a.
So, but I don't, you know, that's all the
thinking. So,
Right.
yeah. Like I try to mischaracterize Vito as not cleaning out every buffet that he's in proximity to. Like I try to do that, and then he posts a picture of himself. It's like, moving wrong again.
Gluttony is an anxiety response.
We had Vito on recently, and it was interesting. So
he's an interesting guy, that's for sure. And I've said this. I've hung out with Vito in person a couple times now, incidentally, and he's fine. Like hanging out with him's.
The reason that Dick Masterson keeps Vito around is because Vito is subservient to Dick Masterson. You're going to notice that aside from Sean, there's nobody around Dick on the regular that would stand up to Dick. Like Nick and Dick are friendly, but it's not like they spend a lot of time around each other. Dick is on Nick's podcast more often than vice versa because Nick is bigger. He's gotten bigger than Dick Masterson. So Dick he's seeking out not approval, but you know, advantage. And he treats Nick like, you know, like he's got something he wants. But the people that Dick keeps within his close proximity, they're always going to be people that are subservient to him. The reason that Sean, who is kind of subservient to Dick, there's a little bit, he's definitely on the lower footing, but a little bit higher on the lower footing. The reason that Sean gets to stand against Dick a little bit more is because Dick doesn't know how to run a console, and he wouldn't have audio for his show without Sean.
Not like it's not a big deal at all. He's kind of funny, and he's able to socialize with people just fine. It's just when he gets on the internet, his takes get so nuclearly bad that it drives me fucking crazy.
Well, and he's got this reputation as a fucking hall monitor. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, and
like I said, hall monitor.
Right? For
that one's even worse. But I saw his performance on Flashcast, and it felt like he realized that he fucked up, and he's trying to fix that. So that's a step in the right direction.
On the
I don't know that Mr. Girl will ever figure it out. So.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about Vito and Dick Masterson is for all their protestations and defenses of cuties, neither of them have ever watched it.
What?
Yeah, they don't
really
agree.
I don't want to talk about cuties.
It's not good. Oh, he's going to look at you sideways.
Whatever. He'll point to
Fuck
other
that
things
shit.
that he
Cuties,
thinks are
no
more
way,
damaging to children.
Yeah, there's no rehabbing
Some
your
people
image
would say,
after
like,
that. Fuck Vito.
Fuck
Mr. Girl,
or
too.
whatever. Or what about his but that's kind of what he does. And then also if he does something and it gets a lot of reaction, I mean, he lives in chaos. That's his thing to do. Vito, I don't know why he defended cuties. So
Vito's just kind of doing what those NPC streamers doing. I'm Taco. Good. He's responding to the stickers. That's all. He's just responding to the stickers.
hard, like I have no idea. what
With
the purpose of it.
pre-rehearsed,
My thing with cuties is I don't think it
contrived
falls into the
performances.
exceptions of free speech and expression. I just wish no one would have ever made the movie, right? And I
Right.
think that whoever
I don't want to talk about cuties.
And that you think morality should not be part of it, but answer the moral question. I would say censoring people is immoral. That would be my answer. So it would be immoral to censor a person, whoever it is. It's immoral to censor them.
No.
Look, I had never heard the speech, so I'm not sure I can even
Did
really.
you even
answer.
watch? Did you watch the clip?
let's I'll bring up the Vito clip. Maybe we'll the one Vito put together.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't
Okay.
we watch that?
And the
Here-
reason
here-
go
here's
ahead.
my issue. Obviously, like language is an imperfect thing,
Sure.
so there is going to be multiple ways to see every situation, and you're not going to get past some people seeing it as an advocation for violence, and some people seeing it as
Advocacy is an
an
incitement.
innocent analogy.
That's
World
correct.
War II
That's why you have to go with legality as the standard, because people are
was-
going to view it differently, and that's why legality is there.
World War II was good. World War II was good. Storming Normandy was good. Storming Normandy was good. The Civil War was good. It's all advocacy for violence. That doesn't get you banned. That's all advocacy. It's not an incitement. It's an advocacy.
That's why it has to be the standard.
Right. So I don't know how you get past that and leave the
Legality.
sense
Legality.
that the procedure has been fair because of the
What Adam doesn't understand is that his morality isn't a I guess I'll use the word metric. His morality isn't a metric for what anyone else should do but himself. And both he and Sitch, they are the type of people that think everyone should be forced. So is Vito. They think everyone should be forced to abide by their morality because they think that it's arrogance and egocentrism. They think that they are so perfect that they couldn't possibly be wrong about anything. And anyone who doesn't follow their moralistic framework has to be forced into subservience one way or another.
preciseness of language.
Okay, so you're saying it should be banned or shouldn't be banned?
Well, see, look, look, here's
So they're dancing around it.
look. Let me make myself clear. Here's
What
the
they're doing is
exercise.
so Adam and Sitch aren't pro free speech, but they like to say they are. It's kind of like people that wear in the 90s there was a term for it with like skate culture, and that term was poser. And there were skateboarders and there were posers, and skateboarders rode skateboards and they got fucking hurt all the time. And I was a skateboarder for a little while, but I never got very good because I saw one of my friends break his fucking ankle, and I thought, I don't ever want to do that. And I had already taken some scrapes and bruises, but I was like, these scrapes and bruises are getting worse. The more I try things, the more hurt I'm getting. I'm going to do other stuff. But there were people who did not skate that dressed up like skaters because it was a popular fashion at the time, partially because of Edward Furlong and Terminator, but also partially because of Christian Slater and Gleaming the Cube. And there were people dressing up like skaters so that they could pretend to be skaters, and those people were called posers. Adam and Sitch are posers when it comes to free speech. They know that the term is cool, and it always has been. A banner of liberalism was anti-censorship. It changed after Barack Obama got elected. But up until that point, freedom of speech and anti-censorship were banners of liberalism. So they know they have to waive it, because if they came out and they said, well, actually, I'm pro-censorship, that wouldn't play out as cool. That would be square. So they rationalize their support for censorship and play it off as if that means that they are still pro-free speech. No, you're not pro-free speech. You're pro-censorship. Admit what you are and be that thing. What's up, Jez? Rock. I don't know what rock and stone means. Do you want any of us to come on? No, I'm going to fly solo on this one. I'm going to go on for just a little bit longer. I'm going to put Vito on shortly. Not really Vito. Vito from the Rekieta interview.
We're gonna do.
Oh, we're gonna play the clip, by the way. Pierre Mandrake. I'm gonna play whatever clip Vito put up. Which, if I have to assume, Vito would pull the things that he finds most offensive and most worthy of banning and put them in the.
What's fascinating is that Vito put a clip on Twitter from Nick Fuentes' speech saying this is offensive and it should be banned without any amount of self-awareness to understand that he is rebroadcasting the thing he thinks the person should be banned for. Therefore, if he's consistent in his rules, he should also be banned for it. But Vito's a fucking 90 IQ sociopath. Good, I'll listen to your leprechaun ass while I think. I don't even have red hair. Fuck you.
The clip. So that's why we can't play the whole speech. I was thinking about doing that, but I don't want to sit for like an hour and a half EFAPing this clip right tonight.
Right.
But I do think that, Vito pulled these clips. And so I want to go off of what he's talking about in regards to censorship. And I don't think Rumble will censor me for playing Fuentes' lines if we're doing it in the context of discussing.
Well,
we're not advocating.
I'm in favor.
Oh
of
my
banning
God, he
it if
takes
he's
so long to
advocating
get
for
to the
violence.
point.
We're
Drives
going
me
to bring up
crazy.
the clip and we're going to look at it. Some people are going to say look, he's clearly advocating for violence and they should ban it. From personal perception,
I want to do. I
clear that he was
at his speech at the America First rally, right? Like that's where we are
Right.
with the America First
and
rally.
he says violence is the only way to solve this problem.
If Nick Fuentes gets up on stage,
I don't think
and
he said
says,
that. I don't think that's the
"You
quote.
bankers are taking your income through usury. They're exploiting you. They're conniving monsters who, through their kikesh ways, want to take your homes from you through this unethical lending process, and they have installed a political machine to protect their interests under the lies of the Holocaust and this exaggerated instance of past oppression. They should be culled with scythe, sword, spear, and gun until they are removed from this earth like the plague they are."
Sitch and Adam are completely
That's what he says.
silent.
Exactly. I would not ban that speech.
So, but that is a clear advocation for violence.
It was at this point in the stream that I realized that Rekieta absolutely, and like I know he's a legal guy, but like he what he's doing here, I think is brilliant because
What fascinates me is that Adam is flummoxed because he doesn't understand the difference between advocacy and incitement. Fucking retard. Yes, it is an advocacy. It could also be hyperbolic. It could also be generally literal, but he's not inciting because he's not making specific statements of how and when it should happen. You fucking retard.
He obviously, you are referencing some of these speeches, like coming up with
fucking
that
long way.
Adam Bond, illegal Fuentes. I'll call him Nick from now on. Anyway, Rekieta clearly understands the law, and these two do not, and are advocating for more of a leftist type of censorship.
So you're fine with advocating for violence.
I am fine with the Supreme Court standard on protected speech, and that is protected speech.
Have any of you seen a large content creator on the conservative side make that argument? Because that's the exact correct argument.
The standard that people like Adam, Sitch, and Vito want is that the people who we perceive as most powerful should get what they want. And when they complain about something someone says, that person should be punished and removed from the public square. That is the standard they want. It's all about their appealing to a power structure.
Argument. I would argue anything else is faggotry and bullshit. That is the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I'm not interested in anything else. I mean, if people want to throw out theories or how other ways you want to do it, that's fine. But that is the answer. That right there is the answer. So far, Rekieta is the only one I've seen so far with the complete correct answer on this. And that's unfortunate because the right's supposed to be about free speech. again, I'm talking about big conservative content creators. There's a ton of people on Twitter pointing out.
Well, there's a reason why the right isn't standing up for free speech, and it's because they also appeal to the power and the people who signed the donation checks.
This as well. In the Viva Frei thing, when he was on Twitter, there were a ton of people on Twitter showing excerpts from Brandenburg and the speech that he gave, and and the other examples. So there are a ton of people on the internet that understand this completely. I'm saying as far as large content creators that have covered this.
So Hard Bastard brings up Viva Frei. Viva Frei is never really going to get it. I like Viva, but neither he nor Barnes are ever really going to get it. For Viva to get it, it would require the same look in the mirror that Catholics had to do in the late 80s, early 90s. But he's too caught up in but my tribe. He'll never look in the mirror and, like if you're an Italian, you should think, should I join the mafia? Is the mafia a problem? He doesn't have the same instinct. If you're a Catholic, you should be like, what the fuck was going on there? But in his view, his group is perfect and never does anything wrong. Individuals from the group may, but there is absolutely no connection between them. Why? Because once you admit the truth, it's like a keystone falling out. The whole building falls down, and you have a whole lot of other truths to admit. Barnes is never going to admit it either, because Barnes has a career to protect. And I like Barnes. I like both Barnes and Viva, but they're never really going to get there.
That have covered this in detail. He's the only one so far that I've seen.
Are you? What is the Supreme
So
Court?
is it like as long as
the
it's
Supreme
not
Court cool with advocating for violence?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's a difference
Is it-
between
as long as
advocacy
it's
and
not a
incitement,
specific,
you
like,
fucking
kill this
retard.
Specific person, it's okay. Like you can.
No, that's even okay in
Oh,
a
really?
weird
Okay.
way.
Uh-huh.
So the controlling case on this is a very interesting case that often shocks people. It's Brandenburg versus Ohio.
I don't want to talk about Brandenburg. We've been through Brandenburg.
Look how easily, when Rekieta's asked a direct question, instant answer. And then compare that, because this is a longer speech, compare that to the times that Sitch and Adam are asked direct questions.
They can't answer direct
maybe
questions because they can't go off narrative, and direct questions get them to go off narrative. And what they're trying to do is pull you into narrative, not actually have a real conversation or debate.
It's like, if you maybe you sneezed or something, I'm not trying to be ridiculous, or if you were like, oh, can you repeat the question? I'm not trying to be ridiculous, but if you're deliberately dodging direct questions, that's no good. That's no good at all.
You have a better understanding of the law and the definition of inciting violence, obviously. So,
Right.
But we're still.
So I like that concession on Adam's part. I like that concession. That is correct. That is true. And that's okay. You didn't have to know it. I learned some shit. This third example with Charles Evers, I was like, wow, my view of this was even adjusted. I am now even more pro free speech than I thought was legally permissible. Okay. The third example. And now, like I said, the Fuentes shit, that wasn't even close. That's a metaphor. It's laughable. But this motherfucker threatened violence against people who refused to boycott white businesses. I was like, damn, that's legal too. Holy shit. I'm not saying to do that. And some of this shit, if you do, you might get visited from the cops. But yeah. And this is good. See, on the one hand, it's good to get a refresher here to know exactly what's going on as these issues come up. But it's just, it's disappointing that the people who are supposed to be the most free speech ones, the conservatives and the conservative free speech platform, they're like, what? There's just not, they're not even close to this. They are not even close to this, which is really unfortunate.
What I said still holds.
Adam did a thing there where he, like I was saying, he said you have a better idea of inciting violence, but he was talking about advocacy. He's not differentiating between incitement and advocacy because he's a fucking idiot.
That, we are going to look at it and everyone is going to come to their own determination on what inciting violence is. You're saying you have the Supreme Court on your side, and and therefore you're going to say, this isn't inciting violence. But a lot of people are going to look at it. And
So he's not saying he has the Supreme Court on his side. The Supreme Court is on his side.
and not know that information about the Supreme Court. They're going to use.
It doesn't matter if they know it or not. They're wrong. It doesn't matter what they know. It doesn't matter. Their complaints don't matter. Adam is responding to, well, people will complain about it. Too fucking bad.
Just their personal definition of inciting violence, and they're going to say this meets the criteria. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I want to do like the personal opinion. Then I want to do the practical opinion, right? Because Rumble has a practical consideration to make here. It's their business model. They have to determine like how free speech are they? What are the limits? They have to determine the media fallout from stuff. Like Elon Musk elevated this tweet about it.
That was a bitch move too by Elon. Not good at all. By the way, Quartering pulled out a video today going over like there's been a ramping up of censorship on Twitter and shadow banning. Like we're going backwards on Twitter. Like it is no good. It is no good at all what's going on Twitter right now.
What did he say? I didn't know that.
He just responded in one of the thread. Like I can't remember which thread. Elon Musk just responded with 2 exclamation points. And that's when this thing started to go more and more.
Yeah, Linda Yaccarino is doing exactly what we knew Linda Yaccarino was going to do. Surprise. Now the question is, did Elon Musk hire her knowing that she was going to do that so that she would do that? Or is she doing it despite his wishes? Yeah, I'm on the fence on that one.
Musk, right?
Yeah.
So something got amplified by Elon Musk. Now, Elon may have some motivations with Twitter being an upcoming video platform.
Oh yeah, of course, he's in competition with Rumble.
Right. So that influences things as well. But no, I think we have multiple layers, and just because I model speech as much as I can on what the Supreme Court has said, because my personal opinion is that as much.
All right, we're retreading ground here. Yes, the Supreme Court, and they
America.
don't get it.
The internet, as far as like, I don't understand. Look, I know my perceptions are probably very jaded and whatever, but like, most of this would get resolved if people would stop being such faggots about all this shit. Really. I mean, who fucking cares? A guy said some shit at his speech. Click the button and move on. I don't care. Like, are you kidding me? This is such bullshit. And I know the answer. The answer is that people are trying to control the internet. And that's why. And so they don't even.
No one hates being called a thief more than a thief. Because when you call a thief, everybody around says, hey, that guy's going to steal our shit. We should lock it up. And now the thief has to do more work to steal your shit.
Like a lot of these people, I'm sure, I'll choose.
We have these spheres, and that's why I want to get a feel for someone. Now, other people could say, I would want this completely removed from the internet, but I think that, from a legal standpoint or a practical standpoint, it shouldn't be, right? Like, so people can go both ways on this thing.
How does the imminent lawless thing interact with cross burnings?
That one, so cross burnings.
Cross burnings require trespassing and destruction of property, as well as intimidation, which is intimidation because you're on somebody else's property, destroying property. That's how.
Like, that's really dumb to do, because
Tired of all the malt liquor bottles being washed.
God bless you. Good night.
Sorry.
Okay, then he tries to bring Sneeko into it, which I don't think is relevant to our overall conversation.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so was that a call to violence?
Oh, and it's interesting. So maybe you could throw some shade here. Sneeko did not come in after that was said.
Keep in mind, all these people supporting war in Ukraine, that's an advocacy of violence. Supporting Ukraine military against Russia, that's an advocacy of violence. Is it incitement? No. But it's an advocacy. Is it a call to violence? Maybe. It's not incitement.
But he comes in at a different point. So
Yeah, look, so my thing with this is I know how veto operates. I know that now I don't know the whole context of the speech because I haven't gotten around to watching it. It's an hour and a half.
Vito did that to smear Sneeko. I'm largely neutral on Sneeko. I think he's kind of dumb, but I think he's kind of funny sometimes. I think that he and Zerko may have gotten up to some wood chipper worthy things.
And I'd rather put a bullet in my head. But I know that those clips are not contiguous, right? So they're pulled together. But I'm willing to accept that there's a general thread tying those together.
Going to the bus. Get him, Nick.
But quotes and stuff. Do you have anything that is like more inflammatory or differently inflammatory than what was listed?
Well, okay. Like he says we got to get rid of Jewish power in America.
Okay.
We got to get rid of mafia power in America.
We need to eradicate.
We got to get rid of Italian power in America.
America to be run by Christians, not Jews.
Okay.
We got to get rid of white power in America.
Genocide.
We got to get rid of white control in America. We got to get rid of Christian power in America. We got to get rid of Christian control in America. All those things are allowed
as long
and
as they're playing
allowable.
by the rules or they have merit. And he says none of that matters.
We pretend like there's no
None of that
veracity
matters. There just
to
should
any of
be,
those statements.
basically immigrants in the country. And he kind of goes off on a whole screed about how it's not about culture, and he makes a race essentialism argument about how white, like it's the white DNA that basically allows white people to exist in first world countries. Blah 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 blah.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, he says lots of terrible things that are not in the clip. But in terms of
okay, wait though, like, okay, so I may disagree with a lot of what he just said, but you said he said a lot of terrible things. Are those things that you mentioned terrible?
I would consider white ethno-nationalism terrible, yes.
Okay.
My follow-up would be, do you consider black ethno-nationalism terrible? Do you consider all ethno-nationalism?
Israel is an ethno-nationalist theocratic state. So every statement in support of that country is an ethno-nationalist statement. But that's loud.
Nationalism terrible? Because if your answer is yes, then you're at least being consistent, and then that's fine. Like, you're consistent in your belief and whatever. I don't know the answer as far as Sitch, but if a person is only picking one race, at least under the standard old definition of racism, that would be.
It's not the principle that's a problem for all these people. It's that it offends the group that they see as in power and who they want to appeal to.
Racist.
I mean, that's fair. Do Jewish people have control over the banking system?
So this is where
no, it's the Irish
questions here. Now it's getting good. Like, you're just coming out with the fucking
it's the Irish
questions.
Guys.
It's a fantastic thing to see.
Jamie Dimon is Greek, so it's the Greeks.
Are there people who are Jewish in positions of power in this country? Yes.
Yeah.
Is there
And they have absolutely nothing to do with one another.
Jews?
They don't go to conferences where they talk. They don't have any sort of cultural network that they share. They have nothing to do with one another whatsoever. In fact, they don't even know each other's names.
Working together to align their Jewish interest? I don't believe so.
You don't?
No.
Is it reasonable for someone to come to that conclusion even though you haven't?
I mean, what do you mean by reasonable?
Okay, so you've seen there was a meme post a little while ago. It was like the CEO of every media company was like Jewish, right? Like,
yeah,
total coincidence.
Okay,
so
not accurate, yes.
But
so the list was inaccurate. No problem. Can we comment now and analyze the accurate list? When you take I'm assuming when I hear someone say that, I'm assuming they're going to bring up the Irish guy from Vice or whatever. So take however many of those people that are not Jewish, no problem, and put them aside, and they're out of the equation. Can we now address?
No, it's the Irish, like Conan O'Brien. Check his early life.
The percentage of the rest of them. But anyway, whatever. I'd like to see that debate. I'm interested. These are the debates I want to see. I want to see all these debates. But it's probably not going to happen.
Taking them at face value, sure, and taking the idea that the banking institution actually, is kind of built on some of Jewish ideas about lending that you can find in the Bible and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So taking these things, is it reasonable for someone to come to the conclusion that Jews run banks and media in America, especially in Hollywood, but also in, we'll say, daytime news or whatever, and that there might be, sort of an agendaed group of people acting in collusive effort in regards to that.
Well, that's why
they
I
happen
asked,
to
what
be
do you-
Jewish.
What do you mean when you say reasonable?
Is it
Like,
reasonable?
I can understand how a person could come to that conclusion. Sure. Like, I can understand why someone
Okay.
could come to the conclusion and say, oh, there's like, just men, and specifically, there's men in prison, right? So all men are criminals, right?
I mean, it's
Anything
the
in your
Irish,
life is
Italians, the
justified-
Greek,
to
of
my mind,
course.
it's justifiable
It's the
for
Irish.
someone to have.
It's a different
But I can
subject.
understand how someone can come to that conclusion.
But you could see how you could disagree with a position and it could be reasonably reached, right? Like, so in this
Well,
one, you go,
you keep saying reasonable. To me, I guess the problem is that
Sure.
when you say reasonable, I feel like there's a moral.
Sitch's paycheck relies on him not giving any ground on this. He can't admit that there's a reason to think what these people think about collusion in the banking industry, because there's more ground that you give attached to that, and he starts to be proven wrong about other things.
Weight in that word reasonable, which I don't know if that's what your intention is or not.
no, I mean, so the legal usage of reasonable is it anticipatable that a person of common intelligence could come to this conclusion?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
From that, using that, yes, I will agree.
Okay, so average guy walking down the street or someone you pass with your card at Target or whatever, you're like, this person isn't crazy, but based on what they've seen, they could come to the conclusion that Jews run these industries and that those Jews could be talking to each other. That's a reasonable conclusion that someone could come to, even though you disagree with it based on the evidence you've seen.
Sure. I mean, I think people are.
Okay.
I think humans have basically been wired to be bigoted and have in-group out-group preferences. So, of course, that would be understandable that that's what the average person could come to that conclusion.
But it's not true, right?
Clear. I'm just
Human beings are wired to have in-group preferences, but this group doesn't practice in-group preferencing, right? You fucking idiot. There is a reason. What is the reason? I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea.
No, I understand.
I can see how people come to that conclusion, even if I disagree. But so that's what I was trying to get to. This is
Well, no, but it's weird because the reason that I said there's like a moral weight to it is because
Well, hello, Canalis. Midnight solo, like in the good old days. You know what? I didn't really do many solo streams. I did very few solo streams. It's kind of why I'm doing this one solo.
you posed it after I said, kind of in sort of contention to me saying terrible things, right? Like people can reasonably believe something that's terrible.
True. Yeah, they could. Well, and that's the thing is, I don't particularly find the idea that Jews run these institutions and that there could be collusive talks on specific political agendas or whatever. I don't think that's a terrible idea. Like, I don't think that that's a terrible way to view things in and of itself. Like, absent some further step, right? Like, to me, that's just how capitalism can work. And that's why there's a really interesting article published by Malcolm Gladwell talking about why Jews became kind of really big lawyers in the mid 80s to the mid 90s, and why most of the major law firms now are run by Jews when they weren't before. And it's specifically because of prejudice keeping white kids in the Ivy League law schools, and the Jews were forced into the more mainline and lower end schools. But those schools taught mergers and acquisitions. And, this is the interesting thing. Mergers and acquisitions were seen as a dirty part of law in the 60s, 70s.
Why were mergers and acquisitions seen as a dirty part of law in the 60s and 70s? And why was practicing it frowned upon? And what has its ubiquity affected on modern society? Those are all worthy questions worth asking.
But in the 80s, they became very popular. But the only people who had been doing them were Jewish law firms. The white law firms did not see them as sort of this proper thing to do. Right. They thought it was, very hostile and gritty. So
that's probably where the Chinese connection happened.
Massive transactions and making a fucking fortune because they're the only
international
people who have done it.
Mergers and acquisitions for Chinese clients who are ultimately the CCP.
Big part of the rise to why we have the meme of the Jew lawyer being like the big law firm. Every law firm ends with a Witz, like Meskowitz and Feingold or whatever. But that wasn't the case in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It just turned because of circumstances.
Right.
But so I can say that, well, Jews run all these major law firms, and the majority of major law firms, and that can be a true statement. There's nothing horrible about it. It's not a moral question.
Well,
Now
it's
the question
horrible
is,
if they're above the law. That's why he uses the quote.
Right.
That's why he uses the quote that the Gentile has one set of rules and the Jews have a different set of rules, to give you the impression that they are above the law, or feel that.
To give you the impression that they're above the law. So where's Anthony Weiner right now? Where's Sam Bankman-Fried right now? How long did Epstein walk free? How long did Weinstein walk free? No, there's no reason to have the impression that they're above the law.
They're above the law. That's pretty telling.
Well, I think that's the distinction that you're making. Because first of all, I didn't know that about the Jewish lawyers. That's really interesting.
It's a great piece. Gladwell is frail.
I must say this isn't really something that I am well versed in this topic. I mean, I know more about it than I'd like to, honestly. Spent way too long in show business. Wish I'd gotten out 10 years before I did.
And full of soy, but his writing is insightful and very, very interesting. There's a couple of his books that are
right. But to me, that's kind of like the distinction we're talking about, like what is the terribleness? Because you could just say, oh, there's lots of Jewish lawyers out there, which is a fact, right?
Sure.
But that's a different claim than saying like, well, the reason there's a lot of Jewish lawyers, or once there are a bunch of Jewish lawyers, they're doing this sneaky Jew tactics behind the scenes to cultivate power and keep it out of the hands of the Gentiles, who they're plotting to basically weaken by importing immigrants and blah blah blah. There's a whole chain of thought that goes along with this.
Do you think that's happening, Nick?
Are you? Well, let me answer. Let me answer rhetorically.
Well, no, that's the more important question.
I will directly answer this question.
The answer is Nick does. He plays their game too much, and he does the "aw shucks, I'm just a country lawyer" thing too much.
I will directly answer this question, but before I do, because I don't want to taint the discussion with my answer, are you guys familiar? Are you guys comfortable criticizing white people as a whole?
I mean,
what do you mean? I mean, I don't like generally being racist.
They know what he's doing here. They know what he's doing here. They know that he's setting them up to say, well, we all have no problem criticizing white people. Why are there other groups that we can't criticize? So they're gonna lie,
including white people. So.
No, I'm not even saying
white
racist.
people aren't even really like a culture.
I know it's not like a monolith, but
that was a criticism. You fucking idiot.
Comfortable in saying, for example, would you be comfortable in saying that white people in this particular town are racist or bigoted in a particular way?
I wouldn't be comfortable.
No.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie. And Nick misread their will. Like he set this up too easy for them. What he needed to do, and it wasn't a thing that he really had the time to do, but what he needed to do was to have examples of them doing it so that they couldn't lie about it, because these guys are just going to lie. They do that a lot.
You wouldn't be comfortable saying
no,
that?
It's not true, because there's going to be like 5% of even if 95% of the people meet your criteria, you're going to be
right. So that's nonsense, because we don't define demographics by 5%. When 95% of a demographic engages in a certain behavior, that sets the standard for that demographic. If 30% of a demographic engages in a behavior, but the remaining 70% is split up into differing 10%, 7 different 10% segments of differing behaviors along that line that also contradict one another, then that 30% behavior will define that demographic, right? So, for example, if 30% of a population prefers chocolate ice cream, but then 10% prefers strawberry, 10% prefers vanilla, 10% prefers Rocky Road. No, that's a chocolate. 10% prefers pistachio, 10% prefers coffee, 10% prefers vanilla. Did I say vanilla yet? 10% prefers raspberry. I really like raspberry ice cream. I haven't had that in a long time. And 10% prefers what's a good one? Cotton candy flavored ice cream, right? that 30% that prefers chocolate ice cream defines the demographic, because that is the largest homogenous decision in that question. But people pretend they don't fucking understand statistics conveniently so constantly, it's infuriating. I guess some people are too dumb to understand that, I guess. But I think that it's got to be at least evenly split of people that just refuse to understand it. So yes, if 95% of a population engages in a specific behavior, then they define the demographic, and the 5% is statistically irrelevant. You fucking retard.
5% of the people under the bus because they're not racist,
Okay,
and you're calling them racist anyway.
So you say most white people in this town. You
I-
can even have a statistic. Like, we've done a statistic.
Sure.
At this
80%
point,
white
like
people are-
at this point, you need to be confronting them on how retarded they are when it comes to statistics and demographics, and they're not. I don't. I'm split. I think Sitch is not. Adam is, because this is convenient stupidity on their part. Like you at least Sitch, you know how demographics work. Adam, you're a fucking
Whatever
retard.
you want.
But I to me, and we talk about this on our show because we cover a lot of, and we just covered these black content creators who will just say like very racist things about white people.
Yeah, I think
where
that's
if a
funny.
white person has an opinion, it's like, oh, it's
I love
'cause
the
of their
Black
white
Hebrew
person. Or, it's
Israelites.
'cause
They're
of the white
hilarious.
supremacy in society. And to me, I don't see the validity or usefulness of just associating someone
Validity or useful is irrelevant when it comes to other people's right to say a thing.
with race as to why
And
they're
it's totally
behaving in some
unfair.
specific
Thi-
way.
This is on me. This is a bad way to ask the question because you guys.
The Italians run the mafia. I don't see why a person's ethnicity is useful. The Italians run the mafia. I don't see why a person's ethnicity is useful. The Italians run the mafia. Get it? Get it? Do you get it? Fucking idiot.
You guys are reasonable, nuanced. That's the whole thing about how you built your channel. Like you were in this bubble, and then you noticed like these sort of generalizations kind of pervading your political outlook, and you're like, wait, this isn't how we do things. Like we should analyze things based on facts. So this is my mistake.
I mean,
in answering
politics
the
is
question this way.
necessarily
Should
run on
any-
generalizations. You can't please
Do black
every
creators be
member
concerned
of
about
a
criticizing white
of
people's
a
opinions?
citizenry.
I
Yes.
think they should. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Why
should.
would they be concerned about it?
Why are they not?
Why would they be concerned about it? What would their concern be? Like, are they
Well,
afraid
you're
that if
first of all, you're creating racist stereotypes that people who don't fit those
So what?
stereotypes have to deal with in their daily lives.
okay, but
you're-
what
So
is
what?
their
Substantial.
fear about doing it?
Well,
Is anyone stopping them?
no.
Are they going to
There's no getting rid. This whole idea that they're somehow going to make people not stereotype is fantastical and imaginary. That's never going to happen. Pattern recognition is possibly the fundamental tool that got human beings out of the caves. If we want to stay out of the caves, we have to keep. Hell, we might not even be able to get back into the caves if we abandon pattern recognition, because it takes pattern recognition to make a fucking cave livable.
White people can't dance, and all they want to do is.
Well,
is
that's not particularly a negative stereotype, but there are stereotypes that all white people.
It is in a
racist,
culture where
which is a
dancing is valued.
pernicious stereotype.
right. So if I say all white people are racist, is anyone going to stop me?
Probably
No,
not,
of course
no.
not. Yeah.
Is anyone going to stop you if somebody for saying, all Mexicans are potential border jumpers? Is anyone going to cancel you? Like actually
Yes.
deplatform you over that?
Maybe,
See, yeah, Nick is
Do you
using
think like
not great
someone can't
examples,
go on YouTube right
and
now
he's
and
doing
say,
it. They know what he's trying to say, and they're pretending they don't know. Maybe they believe their act, but it is an act.
"Hey, everyone in Mexico, I
Well,
have a unfair."
Gender, trannies are there too. Jews, blacks, and trannies. I would say that going on in not so bad. If you didn't put a black box up on your social media, you would get a lot close to open criticizing trannies, and they're losing a lot of their position as a protected class. That's just, I'm not gonna say never, but it's highly unlikely that would happen with Jews, because they go in the leftist mode as soon as someone criticizes Israel or whatever. So You could make the argument Jews are at the top of the oppression pyramid at this point. And it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon unless there's some sort of movement within conservative Inc. Or if technology exists to the point.
It continues until self-criticism happens or a great separation demographically happens. And I don't see the self-criticism happening.
Where you remove all the gatekeepers and you have a decentralized platform that somehow gets a fuck ton of people on it, then we're in a totally different
conclusion.
I'm gonna jump
So I've
out
already
a bunch.
said yes to that. I guess I don't understand what is the like. What does that have to do with me saying? Well, I understand why someone could come to that conclusion. That doesn't mean that's not a terrible thing for someone to come to. Like it's understandable and reasonable and even natural for people to be racist, to be bigoted. It's understandable and reasonable for people to murder and to rape. That doesn't have a moral question about whether something is good or not morally.
But I don't understand what makes it immoral to come to the conclusion that Jews predominantly run Hollywood.
Well, if the train of thought,
Well, the people that sign Sitch's paycheck don't like it, so he doesn't like it either.
was just there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood.
Okay.
Period. Right. Then I would agree with you. I'd say, okay, like, who cares?
And they have absolutely nothing to do with
if
one
the train of
another.
thought is-
They have
because if
absolutely
that's
no
all Nick was
relationship
saying,
with one
oh,
another.
Jews-
They
there's
don't
no Jews
talk
in
behind
Hollywood.
the scenes. They don't
Sure,
have
but
each
that's not
other
what
on
it is.
Facebook
The
or LinkedIn
Jews
or
are
whatever.
running the media,
Yeah.
comma, so that they can bring in non-whites in this country, so they can breed out the whites, so they can control us, so they can control our lives, so they can take over. Like it keeps going. That's the problem. It doesn't just end with there's lots of Jews in Hollywood. It goes to all these other facets of life, which if we're to be reasonable, like from a reasonable person standard, if someone tells me, hey, Sitch, there's a person who's part of a secret cabal who's trying to breed out you and it's people that look like you or sound like you or your religion or whatever, then I'm going to be.
Sitch has a tiny hat. There's no way he doesn't. He's differentiating himself from the alleged what's the word I'm looking for? Persecuted group of white people because he doesn't identify that way.
Be like, I got to do everything to stop these people, including maybe violence. And that's the problem. Of course. What do you mean?
Okay, so wait. So, because I have a different perspective on it, so I'm interested in this.
That was an
So you're
accidental
saying- so
confession
someone
on
comes up
Sitch's
to you and
part.
they're like, "Hey, Sitch, by the way, let's take it out of the Jew context. Very dangerous to talk about Jews." On by the way, I literally have.
Well, I mean, I
no
want to know your
racial
position, though,
prejudices.
Nick.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know your position. Do you think that it is a conspiracy of Jews to control Hollywood and the
No.
banking system?
No, not at all.
Okay, but you.
I don't think.
Look, we all understand. Well, look, we're all.
I don't think Nick's
smart
being
people
honest.
here. We understand. People can rationalize.
So, am I wrong about what's going on here? Sitch and Adam are not honest actors. They're
Yeah, the reason that Adam did that was because he was trying to get a quote from Nick to be used against him, because Adam's a fucking scumbag.
not going to answer questions honestly. They dance around questions. Rekieta obviously knows that. So he's using a completely different tactic, trying to get them to answer honestly. And what Adam just did there is try to ask Rekieta a question that would paint him as a total racist and get him completely canceled. Am I right about that?
Yep, absolutely. I call it.
And there's more related to kind of this is
Sitch and Adam are here with a mission, and the people who signed their paychecks gave them that mission. Whether they did so overtly or covertly, they are here with a mission. They're here to engage in a quote-unquote friendly discussion to draw someone out who can also be put on the chopping block. Because getting Rekieta cut out of the public square is a very valuable get.
Nick is trying to get them, like they clearly have walls up and they're not being upfront, and Nick is trying to get around those walls strategically. That's what I think is going on here, and so he's doing a good job. And Adam there just basically tried to blow up the whole thing with that question. That's what I think is going on here. Anyway, we'll see.
That's because
Just about
Adam's
anything they
stupid.
want to rationalize. So we all understand how people can come to that conclusion.
Right.
But it seems like you agree with us that they're using faulty reasoning. to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, but if I criticize people for using faulty reasoning and coming to their conclusions, I wouldn't be able to like countenance anyone. If I ascribe horribleness or immorality to someone for coming to a conclusion using faulty reasoning, there'd be so many people.
Look, I'm not asking you to
find
do that.
horrible.
I'm asking a question about truth, about the.
It's almost a
objective
struggle session,
reality
and Adam is the commissar of
Okay,
the
but
struggle
here's the
session right
problem.
now.
Like,
He's
just
trying to
because
get
I
Nick
don't
to say the good
believe
words
there
and
isn't a
disavow the bad
cabal
words.
of like small-headed Jews like going.
Why they have to be small-headed? They could be big-headed.
No, had it, not
Oh,
headed.
okay.
Look, oh my gosh, we all
Sitch
know
almost
that
took that personally.
telecommunications companies are doing this.
Oh, here we go.
No,
So
you cannot show any evidence that this is happening. But we all know.
But about truth, about the objective reality.
So I'm going to play this part because Nick uses a corporate example of conspiracy.
Of the situation.
Okay, but here's the problem. Like, just because I don't believe there isn't a cabal of like small-headed Jews like going mermaid Jew.
Okay, but okay.
Describing to a conspiracy theory. Also circumcise people without their consent all the time.
Look, we could live in a simulation right now. All this could be meaningless.
What the fuck are you bringing that up for? That has nothing to do with anything, Adam.
Just because I
I'm
have
so
come to the
deep.
conclusion, and this is generally my averseness to ascribing to a conspiracy theory.
Of course.
Does not mean though that the conspiracy theory isn't correct.
Good morning, Tank.
Right?
Barrett.
Like,
Yeah, well, we would want some evidence before we went believing in conspiracy.
Well, okay, but
Which is
let's
very
move
reasonable.
off. Let's move off the conspiracy thing because none of us believe in the JQ. Okay,
but
That's
I have a. Let me briefly point out a really interesting Supreme Court case. Okay, and the
So point out, so one thing to keep in mind is these people always use the term conspiracy theory as a falsifier. And Nick's going to address this with this example in a second. Conspiracy theory is not a falsifier. It is a descriptor. Conspiracy theory is not a falsifier. It is used as a vilifier to equate the vilification with falsity so that they can dismiss things that they don't like, whether they're true or not.
case is Bell Telephone. There was a guy who brought a lawsuit against Bell Telephone. I think this was in the 80s, maybe it was 90s. So my brain's a little frustrated. It's a landmark case. I think his name was Twombly versus Bell Telephone, and it's a civil procedure case. Now, Twombly alleged that Bell Telephone, who at the time controlled 92%, I think, of phone lines, of physical phone lines in the United States. This is before Bell went from Bell to Southwestern Bell, right? Like before the split. And the split was partially as a result of this, even though the case didn't go through. But he alleged that there was a collusive effort between Bell Telephone and other communications providers to have a gentleman's agreement on how the division and distribution of telecommunications markets would work. And that by this gentleman's agreement, they would not compete with each other and they would allow them to fix prices. Was that happening?
So what Nick just described is a conspiracy between Bell Telephone and other telecommunications providers to fix prices so that the consumer had fewer options. That's a conspiracy. That happened. Nick just described this conspiracy and the court case around it very briefly, and he's asking Adam and Sitch if that conspiracy occurred so that he can point out that the term conspiracy theory is not a falsifier. But now, watch what these assholes do.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm asking you, do you guys think that Bell Telephone was colluding with other telecommunications providers? Now, this would have been before major internet, so we'll just say phone providers at the time. Was Bell colluding with other telephone providers to have agreements, not written down, but just agreements to not enter certain markets and to say that this will allow us to set prices and have consistent pricing
there is
everywhere
price
you go?
fixing between companies, sure, yeah.
Okay,
I believe
there is
it's
price fixing.
illegal. Yeah, I believe it's illegal, but it does happen.
Sure. Now, the interesting thing about his case
That
was
is
thrown out.
called
The court said,
a conspiracy.
no, you cannot show any evidence that this is happening. But we all know that Bell was doing this, because we know that Bell was doing this because we know that Spectrum does this, Cox Communication does this, right? Like, this is still going on to this day, right? Because like you get internet anywhere, it's the same price from every company in every market, and you
The
tend to only
cable
have one,
companies are
maybe two options, right?
Okay.
So we know that there's collusive price fixing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Prove it.
Adam is too stupid to see the allegorical and an analogous comparison between Bell Atlantic. Was it Bell Atlantic? Yeah, Bell Atlantic engaging in conspiracy for price fixing, and people at the top of media or name your industry colluding to control other aspects. Adam is too stupid. Sitch is not too stupid.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, I would assume you'd agree that the legal standard should be you have to prove it. You can't just intuit it or say, well, gut check.
Well, the
it
legal
looks
standard,
like it
right?
does,
But
right?
we're not talking about legality in regards to Jewish conspiracy. We're not talking about a
Oh, well, just because
legal
you're bringing up
accusation.
this case. So I thought
It's an analogy, right? Like, but the analogy is prove it. Like, we all know.
What even is an analogy about industrial conspiracy? You fucking idiot. Tank Ferret, it's plausible. OPEC light bulb company, Master Charge, and more industries have often colluded control markets for mutual profit. That's why we made laws to prevent it. Yeah. But my overall reaction is shrug. So what? Take legal action or shut the fuck up kindly. Well, the problem is the legal action doesn't necessarily work because it's very expensive. It's very expensive to take on a company like Bell Atlantic. And they will play every dirty trick in the book up to having you removed physically. So it's a dangerous game. They have a lot of captured politicians. So yes, taking legal action is great and it should happen, but realistically speaking, it isn't necessarily possible, which is also a problem. So part of getting society to a point where those entities are disempowered from preventing legal action against them is talking about it. When the plebeians talk about it, the people at the top get terrified, and they should be.
No, the telecommunications companies are doing this right now. Right? Like,
yeah, but the problem, but this is the problem with using our intuition as this guide here, because as you brought up, like I had no idea about the whole, only Jewish lawyers were doing mergers and acquisitions. So it's so easy for a person to look at all these Jewish lawyers and say, well, there has to be a conspiracy, because intuitively, how else would that come to be?
Right now.
So you see what just happened there? He dances through all these hoops to avoid the very simple concept of a person reasonably concluding that Jewish people are in control, and then he says this.
But this is the problem with using our intuition as this guide here, because as you brought up, like I had no idea about the whole, only Jewish lawyers were doing mergers and acquisitions. So it's so easy for a person to look at all these Jewish lawyers and say, well, there has to be a conspiracy.
So it's easy for a person to see a conspiracy. That completely contradicts his position. Fascinating. It's very fascinating.
All right, I'm going to fast forward to one of the worst human beings in the world.
Right, Vito?
Regardless, explain your thought process and why you did that. Why you created the negative association to the Rumble logo.
There's a number of reasons. One is that
there's one reason. There's one reason, Vito.
I consider it journalism.
You are seeking a good boy badge.
What I consider to be a breaking news story that this had happened, that Nick had said something that was like, not you, sorry, Fuentes.
No, I know.
Tank Ferret says, I'm not against making people aware of these injustices, just that there's little point to getting outraged by it. I mean, outrage fuels the desire to discuss it, right? Outrage fuels the desire to engage against it with whatever means you have that may not interrupt your life, or maybe that will. So you can't necessarily control that you are outraged. You can control what you do with that outrage. And I think talking about, as a society, talking about these things is pretty important. If we're not outraged by it, then why stop it? Tank Ferret, as the old military philosophy goes, be calm, full of fury and vengeance. Sure, but that vengeance doesn't come from calm.
That was wildly inflammatory. I was like, wow, people are really going to want to hear about this. And honestly, the more information and context you add to a story, the more interesting it is to people. So I added subtitles so that people could hear what was being said. I added the
some
name.
colored fonts I saw.
Yeah, at one point.
Yeah,
I mean,
the red
I think
dye was a good effect, right? Like
I
that
mean,
dye was more important than the other dye.
people got it, people screenshot it and pass it around. At the end of the day, you're trying to create something that people will watch and be interested in.
Mojo
And,
Mayhem is so
Like
fucking
Rumble,
full of
like, did that make
self-importance. It
people more interested in watching
it amazes me
I
that
think so. I
someone
think that-
so
Oh,
gluttonous
You
can be
think
so
they were
full
like,
of
I'm not going to watch this
self-importance.
video of Nick Fuentes saying "kill all the Jews," but now that it says Rumble on it, now I want to watch that.
Well,
That was your
it
thought
adds
process.
it definitely adds to the newsworthiness of it that we're having a big conversation about alternate tech platforms and
This-
free speech.
This part again, like Nick does a little bit too much of oh shucks, I'm just a country lawyer. I don't really have a position on this, when he should just come out and say it. Vito, you're a fat pig and you're a sycophant that hopes that being a good Shabbos boy will get you a show one day. That's why you did it. You did it to get yourself to score points with the people that you think will get you ahead in the career field you want to get ahead in. That's why you did it. Tank Ferret says, I agree with what you're getting at, just to not let that anger control you, but let it be your guide. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you let it control you a little bit. It depends on what you're doing. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, you should control your anger.
Speech. Rumble's been in the news a lot. Like I see people talking about Rumble all the time. So the newsworthiness of it
Nick,
is
why
that
are you? I'm confused.
Vito
because
couldn't do
you
well on a
said
platform
that
like Rumble, which is why he
negative
wants it taken out so that he
association
can
doesn't exist, but you're seem to be
do
upset that
better
we did put
than
the
everyone
Rumble
else by
logo
being
on.
a good boy on
No,
YouTube.
I'm just curious what his motivation for putting the Rumble logo on.
Well, no, I think his motivation.
You're not
is
curious,
he
Nick.
wanted
You know
to
why he
create
did it.
A negative association to the platform Rumble, and he did it
Adam
deliberately,
is
just
so
like anyone
stupid,
would
he
do with
doesn't
advertising.
understand that Nick is
Like,
playing aw shucks
but
country
you-
lawyer.
We just
No,
had
I want to know. Wait, Vito, is that
Nick
true?
knows.
Did you want to create a negative association with Rumble?
Look, he's not
because
gonna
they had a.
admit this, okay,
Wait,
I'm-
why
I'm
not?
postulating this. Look, I already asked him. He would have admitted it when he, like, he would have admitted it already.
You know, you can directly ask the question. Did you put Rumble on there and tag Rumble in your tweet to negatively associate Rumble with this speech?
I wanted.
Yes.
I just figured that
Yes, you did,
for the
Vito.
newsworthiness of it. since
Sure.
Rumble-
Newsworthiness.
There's two different- Well, there's two
Newsworthiness.
different reasons. One is that when you're reporting the news, you want to include things. It's like when somebody kills somebody. You don't say like Bob Smith killed somebody. You say Olympic swimmer killed somebody, because then it's like, oh well, that's more. Now there's more to the story. Okay.
This is the
So
story
did
you
he-
tell
did he
yourself,
kill
Vito, but that's
somebody-
not
did the
why you
Olympic
did it.
Swimmer Bob Smith kill somebody at a McDonald's? Like,
Tank Ferret says Nick plays fun interview type games. I do get a chuckle from time to time. I mean, he's probably a reasonably good, like, I mean, we all like him as the internet lawyer, right? But he probably actually is a reasonably good lawyer when it comes to cross-examination. He knows how to draw people out. He knows the tricks, man. He is good at it. From my perspective, I stay away from courts at all costs, so I don't have a whole lot of original experience to draw from.
and then do you tag McDonald's and say, hey, why do you allow
If somebody was
murder
killed
in
at a
your
McDonald's,
restaurant?
you'd absolutely say a man was killed. That is
Right, but would
interesting.
you do it to say like, why does McDonald's allow murder in their stores?
I never editorialized.
The rhetorical
Why does
game
Rumble
that Nick is
allow
playing
this?
will
I
never
understand
work on
that.
Vito because
Well,
Vito is going
I'm-
to lie about it
Are
until
you sure
the end.
about that?
I'm 100%
You're sure about that?
Yes.
Because
Vito
it
seems-
kind of.
I've
That's
never
full of it,
said
yeah.
why does
Vito
Rumble allow
is
this. I've
a
What's
sub
going
90
on,
IQ
Rumble,
sociopath convincing himself
I
he's
said
120.
what's going on.
Oh, what's
Like-
going on? Rumble, right? Like you tagged what's going on Rumble.
I said Nick Fuentes is currently live streaming an anti-Semitic speech to 6,000 people on Rumble. What's going on? Question mark. That doesn't say that. the
Shut it
problem is
down.
that
You were
he's on
screaming, shut
Rumble.
it down,
The
Vito.
problem is that
really?
he's giving this.
I'm a good
What a
boy.
bitch.
I'm a good hall
Oh,
monitor.
but you-
I'm a good hall monitor.
Rosie.
Teacher, the kids are smoking cigarettes in the bathroom again.
It's not newsworthy. People would not have
yeah.
spread.
Like all hall monitors, Vito is motivated by the fact that he's never invited to the fucking party. So he's snitching on the people at the party. That is what Vito is doing. He wants the party shut down because the kids are having more fun than him and he's not invited. Fat fuck.
Let's be real. I'm on Twitter. I want people to be reading my tweets. I want this to get
You think that
amplified.
tagging Rumble is going to amplify your tweet?
Yeah, because then people know that some people.
Absolutely. Pro censorship Vito. I would just like, and I know it's not going to happen, but I would like people who are pro censorship to just admit it. Admit that you're pro censorship. Let people take you at that value. But you know that there's no social capital. That being pro censorship hurts your social capital because when you say you're pro censorship, the people that you're trying to appeal to will say, well, this guy might get us shut down. So fuck him. Let's see. People don't like hall monitors snitching. It's hall monitors. People don't like hall monitors snitching, and this is why his feelings are getting stitches, because snitches get stitches. Yeah, the hall monitors, they want people to like them, and when people don't like them, they snitch on them, and then they get confused as to why the people they snitched on don't like them, so they snitch on them more. They think that they can snitch their way into being liked. They don't understand that no one likes a snitch. And they won't stop being a snitch because the reality is once you're dug into being a snitch, people are going to remember that you're a snitch. So they have this idea that they can force people to be their buddy. And that's not going to happen.
People don't know what Rumble is, so then they're able to follow the tag and find out what that platform is. Some people do
Yeah,
know
because if
what
you don't know what Rumble is, you're definitely searching for the tag Rumble on Twitter randomly.
Well, no, you don't have to search for it because it's part of my tweet. And now you can instantly go, I haven't heard of Rumble. What is this? And click on it and find out about it.
Oh, yeah, but why
And
would,
shut it
why would that
down.
be important? Like, why do you need your
People want
advertising for
information
Rumble?
about a story. Dude, when I hear a story, if somebody's told me, a guy's threatening to kill a bunch of people over here.
Anyone whose answer to any question is just because is lying to you.
I'd go, oh, and I haven't heard of the place. Now I can easily click on it and find out what it is. Like
So
tagging second, I want people to know where that content is hosted, so they can either get
I can
further
get it shut
context by
down.
watching the speech when it was re-uploaded, or watch future speeches to keep an eye on these things that Nick is saying. Fuentes, because it could lead to potential violence in the future. Some of the rhetoric he's putting out there. So
How do you know?
That's totally made up. That's totally made up. That's the leftist incitement to violence bullshit narrative.
Lead to potential violence.
I don't know, Nick. It is
Oh, okay, gotcha. I just want to clear.
By Vito's metric, anything could lead to potential violence because he doesn't know how it could. So that means anything could lead to potential violence. Vito is a lying sack of shit. He's just trying to be a good boy so that he is just trying to ingratiate himself to what he thinks the power structure is.
Clear that up. Okay, so
Which is actually a confession of what the power structure is, which is the power structure that he denies being. Kind of weird that a power structure would have to deny existing. Almost as if it were admitted, that power structure would stop existing. What was that? What was that Sarah says at the end of Labyrinth? You have no power over me. One of the greatest folk myths is that when you name the power structure, it loses power. That holds true.
keep going.
right. The things that he says and the imagery it puts out there, when he's standing.
Well, the imagery you're putting out here could lead to an incitement of violence. You're so fat.
Yeah, exactly.
That could end up killing someone someday. So your weight is an incitement to violence.
Front of a imagery of guns and bullets.
There are two types of fat dudes. There are fat dudes who go to the beach, they put on their trunks, they take their shirt off, and they're like, hey, I'm at the beach. Your average Samoan is that type of fat guy, right? You see a Samoan at the beach, and he's like, I'm at the motherfucking beach, and I'm fat, and I'm having a good time. And there are people like Vito. Vito's going to hide behind a t-shirt. He's never taken his shirt off at the beach. Because it's not just that there's something wrong with it, it's that he knows there's something wrong with it. That's an allegory. That's an analogy for the rest of Vito's personality. Tank Ferret says, you cannot trust a snitch and they only destroy anything they touch. Yeah. Snitches destroy because it's like a Grendel thing. You know, Grendel, he wanted to be in the Harrod Hall with the Vikings having a good time, but he knew that they'd never let him in, so he killed them all. Same thing.
Talking about how, you know, a holy war is in our midst, that people are trying to make the Gentiles die, and in return, they and his enemies, including the Jews,
I
will
doubt
die in
Vito
the
is
holy-
getting Muslims shut down for talking about the jihad. Yet they do. I wouldn't shut them down for it.
war alongside them. Okay, these seem like very obvious. You know, I hate to use a leftist, stupid SJW term, but
Well, you are a leftist.
Yeah.
this is a
You're
clear
acting like a leftist.
dog whistle type scenario where you put enough stuff out into the ether that
Vito,
goes,
you don't hate to
"Oh,
use
I wanna
leftist
kill all these people,
terminology.
Just kidding, or you know, phrasing it and coaching it in all these cutesy little terms. And look, you can say at the end of the day, "Oh, Nick Fuentes is joking. Don't take him seriously. He's a waste of time." But I don't know why any, you know, let's say Jewish person needs to hear a kid basically saying, you know, I want an end of your race and death to your people.
Well, they don't need to. They don't need to watch the video. I think I want to maybe this Vito's Hala knighting. You know, he's like white knights that go and they protect Milady. Is Hala knighting a good term? He's Hala knighting.
I'm sorry, Jewish people do not get to dictate what others want to watch or listen to. Just because a Jewish person doesn't want to hear it, if a Jewish person doesn't want to hear it, which is totally understandable, they don't watch it. But just
When Vito takes his shirt off at night, soldiers yell light discipline. I don't know what that means. Can you explain that to me? Because I think it's probably funny, but I don't. What is that? What is light discipline? Why explain that? Please.
because a Jewish person doesn't want to hear it doesn't mean that you shut the whole thing down. What kind of fucking bitch bullshit is
Dude,
that? That's
oh
ridiculous.
my god. Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't. He is absolutely the fedora guy. He is absolutely the fedora guy. He wears that hat, by the way. So there are two types of bald guys. I know this because I'm a bald guy and I'm one of these types. And you know, it's not like skin, although I do occasionally give it a bick. But by my early 20s, it was time to buy a pair of clippers. And there are two types of bald guys. There's one bald guy one type is the bald guy that tries to hide it and convinces themselves that they can hide it well enough that people will believe that they're hiding it and not totally know they're bald. That for me lasted maybe a couple of months, and of essentially arguing with myself, am I at that point yet? And the answer was yes, I am at that point. And there's the other type of bald guy who says, well, I'm at that point. Let me get $40 together, go to the CVS, buy a pair of clippers, take them home, and not necessarily skin it, but you give it a good cut. You don't let it get any longer than 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. That's the best you're gonna get, buddy. That's how it looks. That is what you are. Don't hide it. People know. The more you try to hide it, the more stupid it looks. Whereas when you own it and you're like, okay, this is a thing that happens, it comes off way better. And it also there's something about it does something to your personality when you try to hide it. It makes you weaselly and sneaky. Everyone I've ever known that's tried to, dude, I once knew this guy with the worst fucking comb over I've ever seen in my life. And it turned out his girlfriend was putting him up to it. Because I said to this guy, he was kind of like a boss for a company that I worked for, kind of. I was like, bro, I think it's time for you to get a pair of clippers, man. If I can clip that right back. Clip that right back. And I think at one point he actually did clip it back, and then he grew the comb over back in, and it turned out that his girlfriend was putting it up to him. Yeah, clip it. And anybody who has a problem with it, broom them. Light discipline is the military equivalent of turn off the lights. Oh, are we talking blanket party? Are we talking soap in the socks? Vito definitely gets soap in the socks in the military. He's Private Pile all over the place.
What he just said there was fucking ridiculous.
It has to go, oh, well, I'll give him a pass. He's just joking. I think people have every right to be concerned about what this guy
I don't
then
care if he's
express
joking or
your
not.
goddamn concern.
Thing, and I don't understand why people are so mad.
Because you acted like a fucking bitch. That's why people are mad.
basically took his speech and let people know what he, put it out there into the world. I'm getting.
Vito doesn't understand why people are mad because Vito is appealing to the power structure, and people are supposed to appeal to the power structure, and refusing to do that confuses Vito because his impulse is to appeal to the power structure because he's a weaselly sycophant, gluttonous fuck.
In a bitch way. You put it out in the world in a bitch way.
Without your tweet tagging Rumble, no one would have seen his speech, right?
Genuinely, without my tweet tagging Rumble, I don't know if anybody else would have reported out on this. The tweet got thousands of retweets. Awareness has been spread of what this guy talks about and what he's into. So now the next time America First and Nick Fuentes come to your town, you can go, okay, well, here's what we know.
The next time America First and Nick Fuentes come to your town, as if they're like getting a marquee at the theater on Main Street and having their event. That's not what they're doing. This was a private event. Tank Ferry says, I always liked hats, but I don't hide the fact that I'm balding. Those dudes that do try and fail to hide it annoy the hell out of me. Yeah, I actually hate hats. I don't know why. Like, you know that part in the first Guardians of the Galaxy when Groot's like, I fucking hate hats. Well, I guess it's Baby Groot. I don't like hats. I hate wearing hats. But when it's cold, I have to wear a hat because my head gets cold. But other than that, I hate wearing hats. Tank Ferret says, he's so pale, we could use him as a light source at night. It's a cold light, though. It's like that cold, clammy light. There's no warmth to that light.
About this guy.
Corpse
Here's
light.
Stuff that he said. If any of his followers show up, packing guns or prepared for violence, we know who's going to be targeted and why.
Okay, so they don't do that. That's totally made up. This is no different. See, it's so interesting. You get these quote-unquote...
It's a fantastical narrative. There was an entire group of people showing up to towns, burning them to the ground with guns. I mean, many of them had guns, but they weren't necessarily displaying them. And Vito would be nowhere to be found on that issue. He's got this cartoonish caricature of what America First people are like. And the reality is, from what I've seen, the majority of them are somewhat like Nick Fuentes, with Nick actually being at the top of the IQ level. And then who's that dude? I can't remember the dude. He's involved with Ethan Ralph. He talks like I can't do the impression right now. He talks like Elmer Fudd. He's like a skinny, early 20s, like nerdy kid that I actually kind of feel bad for. That seems to me to be somewhere between him and Nick Fuentes of the average America First types. I don't see them as interested in what they would call direct action by any means. I would not bank on that being their interest. Tank Ferry says, I'm photosensitive, so I get you on that. I wear sunglasses all the time. But that's because I spent 20 fucking years in a dark room.
Independent YouTubers that
I can see really well in the dark,
in line with the corporate media, I don't find that to be organic.
Like, what is the issue that again, he has said horrible things.
It's not organic. It's that they are towing the line that they think is most advantageous to their goals.
And I reported on them accurately. And people are saying, well, you shouldn't have reported on it because it might hurt Rumble. Well, my concern is not Rumble.
No,
my concern...
people aren't saying you shouldn't have reported on it. They're saying, I know what you did. And you weren't reporting on it. You were snitching. You tattletale hall monitor fuck.
Is that a man is spreading potentially violent rhetoric?
Why did you specifically tag Rumble?
Because it did exactly what happened. It made the story go wider, and it helped people find out about what Nick Fuentes is saying. It made the story more newsworthy and more relevant, and it also made people know, okay, well, there's a guy named Nick Fuentes. Here's where we can listen to what he's saying and potentially find out about him and protect ourselves.
And protect yourselves from the guys who go to a private event and say things that you may or may not like. Oh, you're so full of shit, Vito. All right, I'm done with Vito. I'm done with that fat fuck. I'm done with those two propagandists. I think it's time for a white pill. Tank Ferret, do you want a white pill? I have a white pill. I was going to talk about Viva Frei, but I'll talk about Viva Frei later. Suffice it to say that I like Viva Frei a lot and Robert Barnes, but they will never, ever reach complete honesty. Tank Ferret says, Sam, all 3 of my daughters inherited the Homo superior gene. Brotherhood, yeah. Kittens, arguably better than kittens. Arguably better than kittens. I might call this as better than kittens. Should I do a full screen? No, I'll just do it. I'll just do a share Chrome window Chrome tab. Where are we at here? I love white pills. Hero, I love white pills too. And I'm telling you, I love this white pill. I love this white pill. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, yeah. Bathe her and bring her to me. Yes. I want to be there with her while she drags this bitch across the street and then yells at her in German. I want her to look at me with that air of disappointment that actually turns out to be being impressed. Yeah, we're gonna play it again. Here we go. Okay. I'm not playing the sound, by the way, because there's music. Yeah, I have to say, Germany, I'm finally impressed. This is the Germany I always knew and loved. Thought I'd lost you for the last 15 years. Hang on, I want to see it again. Oh, no, is she gonna do it again? That's right. You tell him. You tell him. She ran right at that bitch. She was like, I'm gonna get her. Hang on. I'm interested. I want to know. Well, I mean, I hope the internet leaves her alone and stuff. But like, I'm curious. What does this woman do for a living? What does she do for a living? She's a little bit thoughtish. There's a lot of things she could. Is she a waitress? Does she run a nail salon? What does she do for a living? Because I want to find women that do whatever she does for a living. And create a midnight harem. I mean, and interview them. Here, let's watch it again. One more time and then I'll shut it all down. Look at this. Right by the hair. She knows exactly what to do. You see? She knew exactly what to do. Oh. Germany, I've missed you. She was going to drag her right back off the street. Kind of like when Trump ran at the dude that tried to run up on his stage. Well-deserved dragging across the street. Dunn told her. Definitely Dunn told her. How do you say that in German? I'm going to look that up. English to German translator. Hang on. Oh, there we go. All right. Dunn told her. Don ersalte es ihr. Don ersalte es ihr. Dunn told her. Oh, do I have to watch it till the end? Okay, I'll watch it till the end. We'll put it back up. We'll watch it till the end. I don't know if this has all, like, this is what I could find. I tweeted a clip of a dude getting out of his car to remove protesters from a highway. I love these clips of people removing protesters from the highway, and this should absolutely, be legally allowed. This should absolutely, if you have people blocking the street that you're driving on, and there's no way, they're not making it possible for you to get around them, it should. Oh, I don't have access to that at the moment, Tank Fur. You know, I can't really get down that way. Maybe I can eventually. It should absolutely be legal to forcefully remove people that are blocking your automotive traveling on the highway. I see nothing that should be criminally punishable in this clip. And another one. Where is it? There's one more. In your opinion, will Trump become president again? Okay. I would like that to happen. I think Vivek's okay. I like what RFK is talking, but I don't trust either one of them enough. And I do have issues with Trump. He did push the vax, and I think that there are reasons that happened. I think that Trump was somewhat naive on just how deep and dirty the swamp is and was. I think that he thought that he'd be able to get up, call out the bullshit, and the bullshit would end. And it didn't. It ended him, at least temporarily. So I would like Trump to become president again, but I think that they will cheat again, and I think that they will succeed. I think that they are in the process of trying to get him put in jail so that they can completely economically, politically, and socially disempower him from becoming president again. But even despite that, I think that they will stop at no amount of cheating to prevent him from getting in office. I have no idea who they intend to install after Biden. I don't think the next 4 years are going to be Biden. Even if they do run him in the election, I just don't see how. I mean, I do see how he can win, but I don't see how he can win in the media. So I think that they're going to swap him out. I don't think that they will let Trump win again. And the thing is this: there is no avoiding kinetic conflict if any amount of us want to be saved from what Global Homo plans for us if Trump does not become president again. I think that him becoming president is the only way. And that's just one step among many. There are many steps that need to happen. But Trump becoming president again is the only way to a civil resolution to what's ahead of us. And I think that the window for civil resolution is so narrow that you couldn't fit a slice of paper through it. I don't think any of what they're attempting to do was going to work. I mean, they just do. The thing with these people is that they know that if they just do what they're going to do, the only way to stop them is kinetically, ultimately. Right? If someone just goes to your house and continually takes cookies from your cookie jar, ultimately you have to fucking smash their hand with the lid of the cookie jar. They're going to keep taking the cookies. And they know that everyone's too afraid to smash their hand with the lid of the cookie jar. They know that. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. I don't know that I'd say that I'm black-pilled, but the if-thens that are available to resolve this in a good manner are very few. Very, very few. Trump being president is the first step. You're going to need a successor. Yep, absolutely. And it's not Ron DeSantis. I had hoped that it would be. I thought that, lining Ron up for 2028 was a good idea. Now I don't think that. Vivek looks good, but RFK looks good, but like I don't necessarily trust either one of them enough. I think RFK needs to really confront who killed his father and his uncle, and he hasn't completely done that yet. Tank Ferret says, I'd like Tim Scott, but Trump has the best chance at preventing a singularity. Tim Scott is bought. There are ways to stop them non-kinetically. It's outsmarting them. That's the trick. It's not just outsmarting them. It isn't just outsmarting them. I can outsmart the person that's taking cookies from my cookie jar, but if their hand's still in my cookie jar, it doesn't matter how smart I was. I do think that there are ways to stop them non-kinetically, but there are very, very few ways, and the options are running low. But that's all black pilling. Hang on. I want my white pill back. I want my white pill back. Let's get that white pill back. We're gonna end it on the white pill because it's a great white pill. Hang on, white pill. Here's the white pill. See, even this lady. This wasn't a non-kinetic cessation. Maybe this is the metaphor we need. We just need a couple million more like her. Amen. We just need a couple million more like her. That's all there is to it. All right. Everybody have a nice day. I'll probably do this again next week. I don't think I have anything else planned. You guys have a good weekend. I'll probably see you tomorrow night.